Senate will please come to order. I ask all those present to please rise with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Today's invocation will be delivered by the Reverend Dr. Alfred Joseph, pastor of the La Piscina de Bethesda Church of Brooklyn.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and especially Senator Parker, for this good opportunity and honor to do the invocation. Let's bow our head. Heavenly Father, we bless your name for this great opportunity we have today. Hallelujah. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for protection. We thank you for the forgiveness of our sin. And we pray that you take control of this great Senate session today. Let everything going to be discussed today be guided by the great power of the Almighty God. Hallelujah, for the good and benefits of all the citizens of the United States and the state of New York. We pray that, hallelujah, you be with everyone, especially to bless our Chief President Barack Obama, our Governor Andrew Cuomo, and our Chairman, especially our Senator Kevin Parker. We pray that you guide them in the decision-making for the benefit of all the citizens of the state of New York, especially the Haitian American community and the citizen of the district where our senator is the leader. Nous t'en prions, Père très saint, que ta présence soit avec chacun de nous. Et même que encore, Seigneur, ce doux moment que nous allons passer soit sous ton contrôle. Nous t'en prions, dans le nom de Jésus. We pray you in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Reading of the Journal.
In the Senate, Sunday, June 8th, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal, Saturday, June 7th, was read and approved. On motion, Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions. Messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
On page 45, Senator Grisanti moved to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 5465A and substitute the identical Senate Bill 3985A, third reading calendar 725. On page 61, Senator Ritchie moved to discharge from the Committee on Finance Assembly Bill number 829 and substitute the identical Senate Bill number 2115, third reading calendar 932. On page 73, Senator Avella moved to discharge from the Committee on Transportation Assembly Bill number 1358 and substitute the identical Senate Bill number 4898, third reading calendar 1114.
Substitutions ordered. Messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions.
Would call on Senator Valesky and then Senator Gianaris and then come back to me. I believe we all have a number of motions that we need to get done.
Senator Valesky.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of you, and on page 33, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 547, Senate Bill 6964, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. And also, on behalf of Senator Carlucci, on page 47, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 750, Senate Bill 1982B, and ask that that bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
So ordered. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. On page 35, I offer the following amendments to calendar 580, Senate Print 3652, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar, and that's on behalf of Senator Stavisky.
So ordered. Senator Libous.
Thank you, Madam President. I would ask the indulgence of the chamber because I have quite a few motions. And the first one is on behalf of Senator Little. I wish to call up her bill, Senate Print 6654, recalled from the Assembly and is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 480 by Senator Little, Senate Print 6654, an act to amend Chapter 138 of the laws of 1998.
Madam President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill was passed and ask that the bill be restored to the order of third reading.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin, ayes 53.
Madam President, I now move to discharge from the Cultural Affairs, Tourism, Parks and Recreation Committee Assembly Print number 8728 and substitute for this identical bill.
So ordered.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read the last part. I am. I now move that the substituted Assembly bill have its third reading at this time.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 480 by Member of the Assembly Markey, Assembly Print 8728, enactment Chapter 138 of the laws of 1998.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 53.
The bill is passed. Senator Libous.
Thank you, Mr. President, or Madam President. I think I got through that one. On behalf of Senator Ritchie, I wish to call up her bill, Senate Print 3968, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 259 by Senator Ritchie, Senate Print 3968, enact amend the education law.
Madam President, at this time, I move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary, call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 54.
Madam President, I offer up the following amendments. On behalf of Senator Zeldin, Madam President, I wish to call up his bill, Senate Print 3823B, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Amendments are accepted. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 167 by Senator Zeldin, Senate Print 3823B, enact amend the environmental conservation law.
Madam President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 54.
Madam President, I offer up the following amendments.
Secretary will read. The amendments are accepted.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Laval, I would like to call up his bill, Senate Print 6419, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 341 by Senator Laval, Senate Print 6419, enact amend the environmental conservation law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 54.
I offer up the following amendments.
The amendments are accepted.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Lanza, I'd like to call up his bill, Senate Print 3965, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 361 by Senator Lanza, Senate Print 3965, enact amend the penal law.
Madam President, I now reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 54.
Madam President, I offer up the following amendments.
The amendments are accepted.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Gallivan, I'd like to call up his bill, Senate Print 6842, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 519 by Senator Gallivan, Senate Print 6842, enact amend the highway law.
Madam President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 54.
Madam President, I offer up the following amendments.
The amendments are accepted.
Where do we have that one? Madam President, on behalf of Senator Little, on page 17, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 143, Senate Print 4358C, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
So ordered.
On behalf of Senator Farley, Madam President, on page 76, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 1130, Senate Print 7238, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
So ordered.
On behalf of Senator Martins, Madam President, on page 55, I offer the following amendments, calendar number 858, Senate Print 65808, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam President. Now I have a whole host of amendments. These amendments are offered to the following third reading bills. The first one is Senator Maziar's on page 18, calendar number 185, Senate Print 5286. Second one is Senator Maziar's on page 18, 187, Senate Print 64998. The next one is Senator Golden on page 21, calendar number 247, Senate Print 4426. Next one is Senator Gallivan on page 23. 336 is the calendar number, and Senate Print is 91. On behalf of Senator Golden, page 29, calendar number 486, Senate Print 6761. On behalf of Senator Ritchie, on page 31, calendar number 507, Senate Print 7131. On behalf of Senator Young, on page 35, calendar 581, Senate Print 3894-A. On behalf of Senator DeFrancisco, page 37, calendar number 607, 6639 is the Senate Print. On behalf of Senator Golden, on page 39, calendar number 641, Senate Print 7057A. On behalf of Senator Gallivan, on page 47, calendar number 760, Senate Print 5950. On behalf of Senator Golden, I guess that last one was on behalf of Senator Gallivan. Now this would be Senator Golden. Page 51, calendar 801, Senate Print 7176. You with me? Am I doing okay?
Doing fine.
On behalf of Griffo, page 53, calendar number 834, Senate Print 2090A. On behalf of Senator Marcelino, page 54, calendar 847, Senate Print 5275A. On behalf of Senator DeFrancisco, page 62, calendar 943, Senate Print 3732B. On behalf of Senator Young, page 62, calendar 945, Senate Print 4610. On behalf of Senator Griffo, page 66, calendar 981, Senate Print 7241. On behalf of Senator Golden, page 67, calendar 991, Senate Print 7095A. On behalf of Senator Zeldin, page 21, calendar 245, Senate Print 6682A. On behalf of Senator Hannan, page 34, calendar 562, Senate Print 6939A. On behalf of Senator Young, page 34, calendar 564, Senate Print 7004. On behalf of Senator Hannan, page 57, calendar 873, Senate Print 7253. On behalf of Senator Flanagan, on page 70, calendar number 1034, Senate Print 7227. On behalf of Senator Seward, on page 76, calendar 1131, Senate Print 7276. On behalf of Senator Flanagan, on page 43, calendar 695, Senate Print 5322. Not bad for a kid with dyslexia, reading all those numbers. Madam President, I now move that the bills retain their place on the third order of third reading.
Thank you, Senator Libous. The bills are amended and they will be restored to their place
Senator
third reading calendar.
Thank you. Would you call on Senator Avella, please?
Senator Avella.
No, what do you want to do next?
You, Madam President, on page number 73, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 1110, Senate Print number 3667A, and I ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendments are accepted and the bill will be restored to its place on third reading calendar. Senator Libous.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I will call an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332, an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332, and the Senate will stand at ease.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332. The Senate will stand at ease pending the return of the Rules Committee. The Senate will please come to order. Senator Libous.
Madam President, I believe there's a report of the Rules Committee at the desk.
Senator Libous, there is a report of the Rules Committee at the desk. Secretary will read.
Senator Skelos from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 89A by Senator Gallivan, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 273B by Senator Larkin, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 509 by Senator Espaillat, an act to amend the environmental conservation law. Senate 680 by Senator Ravella, an act to amend the administrative code of the city of New York. Senate 1005A by Senator Little, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 1413 by Senator Montgomery, an act to amend the corrections law. Senate 2108 by Senator Golan, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 2225D by Senator Young, an act to amend the mental hygiene law. Senate 2366 by Senator Klein, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 2467 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 2526A by Senator Marcelino, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 2648 by Senator Ball, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 3626D by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 3770 by Senator Obach, an act to amend the state finance law. Senate 4596B by Senator Laval, an act to amend the education law. Senate 4642A by Senator Grisanti, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 4666 by Senator Golden, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 4679A by Senator Nozzolio, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 6146 by Senator Golden, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 6202 by Senator Bonasek, an act to amend the corrections law. Senate 6303 by Senator Laval, an act to amend the state finance law. Senate 6655 by Senator Griffo, an act to amend the state finance law. Senate 6684 by Senator Golan, an act to amend the state finance law. Senate 6698A by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the education law. Senate 6852 by Senator Sanders, an act to direct. Senate 7180 by Senator Valesky, an act to amend the agriculture and markets law. Senate 7208 by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the tax law. Senate 7397 by Senator Farley, an act to amend economic development law. Senate 7433 by Senator Valesky, an act to amend the agriculture and markets law. Senate 7503 by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act to amend the corrections law. Senate 7734 by Senator Nozzolio, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 7760 by Senator Larkin, an act to amend Chapter 266 of the laws of 1981. Senate 7764 by Senator Stewart, an act to amend the insurance law. And Senate 7774 by Senator Hannan, an act to amend Chapter 433 of the laws of 1997. All bills reported direct to third reading.
Senator Libous.
Madam President, can I move that we accept the report of the Rules Committee?
All in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The report is accepted. Senator Libous.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, we have several resolutions by Senator Carlucci. They are resolution number 5577, 5637, and 5638. We would like them, the first one would be read in title only. The second two would be read in their entirety, and then call on Senator Carlucci, please.
Returning to motions and resolutions, the Secretary will read. Secretary will read.
Legislative Resolution Number 5577 by Senator Carlucci, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim June 9, 2014 as Italian American Day in New York State. Legislative Resolution Number 5637 by Senator Carlucci, commending Tony Danza upon the occasion of his selection as 2014 Italian American Day honoree. Whereas, it is the sense of this legislative body to pay tribute to those individuals of true purpose and worthy accomplishment who foster ethnic pride and strive to preserve their cultural heritage, thereby enhancing the profile of cultural diversity, which strengthens the fabric of community throughout this great empire state. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with its long-standing traditions, this legislative body is justly proud to commend Tony Danza upon the occasion of his selection as 2014 Italian American Day honoree. And whereas, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, actor and humanitarian Tony Danza has starred in some of television's most beloved series and is one of America's most beloved entertainers. For more than 30 years, this celebrity has delighted television, film, and stage audiences with his performances and has impacted countless lives through his many volunteer efforts. And whereas, Tony Danza is the oldest son of proud Italian-American parents who truly believed in the American dream and who modeled community and family values. His father, Matty, was a Brooklyn sanitation worker, while his mother, Ann, an immigrant from the Sicilian province of Trapani, worked as a bookkeeper. And whereas Tony Danza and his family moved to Long Island community of Malvern, Nassau County, when he was 14. After graduating from Malvern High School, he attended the University of Dubuque on a wrestling scholarship, earning a bachelor's degree in history education. And whereas, while earning a living as a professional boxer, Tony Danza was discovered and eventually cast in the critically acclaimed television series Taxi, earning him a place in television history and making him a household name. This was followed by a starring role in the series Who's the Boss, which ran for 8 seasons and broke all syndication records. And whereas this multifaceted entertainer next explored his love for the stage, his many stage credits include his theatrical debut in Wrong Turn at Lungfish, which he earned an Outer Critics Circle Award nomination, the critically acclaimed The Iceman Cometh, Arthur Miller's Tony Award-winning play A View from the Bridge, and Mel Brooks' hit musical The Producers, playing Mac Bystock. And whereas Tony Danza has also appeared on the big screen in such films as Angels in the Outfield, She's Out of Control, The Hollywood Knights, and A Brooklyn State of Mind. And whereas, proud of his heritage, Tony Danza and his son Mark wrote Don't Fill Up on the Antipasta, Tony Danza's father-son cookbook, in which they share favorite family recipes and stories about their Italian immigrant family history. And whereas, from 2009 to 2010, this extraordinary man took on the challenge of teaching 10th grade English at Philadelphia's Northeast High School. His amazing experience was taped and aired in the lauded 7-part documentary series Teach. And in September 2012, his acclaimed reflection of his teaching experience, I'd like to apologize to every teacher I ever had. My years as a rookie teacher at Northeast High was released. And whereas Tony Danza cares passionately about young people and devotes considerable time and energies to initiatives aimed towards making a difference for youth. He's a regular volunteer and mentor at the New York City All-Stars Project, which transforms the lives of youth in poor communities through performance, and he volunteers for the New York-based Voices Against Brain Cancer. And whereas, in addition, Tony Danza is a participant in Only Make Believe, which provides interactive theater experiences for children in hospitals and care facilities. He organizes and hosts an annual student-teacher talent show fundraiser at Northeast High School. And this energetic man recently joined the board of the New York City Police Athletic League, where he will focus his efforts on strengthening the relationship between the city's youth and the police department. And whereas in 2010, Tony Danza received the Inspire Award from AARP, the magazine, recognizing him as a person who inspires others to action through the innovative thinking, passion, and perseverance. He was also honored by USA Today in his 2013 National Make a Difference Day Awards for his commitment to helping others through his numerous charity efforts. And whereas Tony Danza has truly distinguished himself in his career and community involvement in the Italian-American community and in all of New York State, has profited greatly from his talent, dedication, and service. Now therefore be it resolved that this legislative body pause its deliberations to commend Tony Danza upon the occasion of being selected as 2014 Italian-American Day honoree, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution suitably engrossed be transmitted to Tony Danza. Legislative Resolution number 5638 by Senator Carlucci, commending Liberty DeVito upon the occasion of his selection as 2014 Italian-American Day honoree. Whereas, it is the sense of this legislative body to pay tribute to those individuals of true purpose and worthy accomplishment who foster ethnic pride and strive to preserve their cultural heritage, thereby enhancing the profile of cultural diversity, which strengthens the fabric of community throughout this great empire state. And whereas, attendant to such concern and in full accord with its long-standing traditions, this legislative body is justly proud to commend Liberty DeVito upon the occasion of his selection as 2014 Italian-American Day honoree. And whereas, affectionately known as the songwriter's drummer, throughout his illustrious career, Liberty DeVito has played with Paul McCartney, Stevie Nicks, Mick Jagger, Roger Daltrey, Ronnie Spector, Karen Carpenter, Phoebe Snow, Elton John, Meat Loaf, and many more. And whereas in 2013, Liberty DeVito was inducted into the Classic Drummers Hall of Fame, and for more than 40 years, he has been repeatedly featured in articles, documentaries, and educational publications, most recently in the documentary A Matter of Trust, The Bridge to Russia. And whereas born to Sicilian immigrants, Vincent and Josephine DeVito, Liberatore Liberty DeVito was born in Brooklyn, New York on April 8, 1950, a second-generation Italian-American. And whereas life for Liberty DeVito began in a one-room furnished apartment where his mother would empty a dresser drawer, line it with a baby blanket, and use that for his bed. His mother says it was the radio on top of the dresser which she kept on all times, that gave Liberty his love for music. And whereas after Liberty DeVito's father became a New York City police officer in the 77th Precinct in Brooklyn, he decided to join the migration to the suburbs and moved his new family to Long Island in 1951. And whereas on February 9, 1964, Liberty DeVito's family, like every other family in America, had the TV tuned to The Ed Sullivan Show. And there they were, in black and white, the Beatles. Since that moment, Liberty's life would change forever. And whereas in June of 1968, Liberty DeVito graduated from Seaford High School, and by November, he was on the road with Detroit rocker Mitch Ryder, banging out Mitch's hits, Jenny Takes a Ride, Devil with a Blue Dress, and Sock It to Me, Baby. And whereas, right after Mitch Ryder, Liberty DeVito's landed a gig with Long Island alumni Richie Supa, and had his first recording experience. The album Supa's Jamboree was recorded in Atlanta in 1969-1970, and was produced by Buddy Bew of the Classics 4 and Atlanta Rhythm Section fame. And whereas the album was released on Paramount Records, and a tour immediately followed. During this time, Liberty was driving the band equipment van from Cleveland, Ohio, back home to Long Island when he was involved in an accident, sustaining serious injuries. And whereas, subsequently, Liberty DeVito took a year off from playing the drums to ease back in, he took a steady gig at a catering hall on Long Island. During those years, the group Topper was formed, and eventually the group became Billy Joel's band, going on to create such legendary songs as Scenes from an Italian Restaurant and New York State of Mind. And whereas, after 30 years with Billy Joel and countless other projects, Liberty DeVito is still going strong. He's proud to have been part of the 9/11 recovery efforts, visiting Ground Zero and supporting the first responders with Billy Joel a few days after the tragedy, and performing to raise funds to rebuild the city. And whereas, in addition, he has played for supporters at the Tunnel to Towers Run, commemorating Stephen Sill's heroic effort to save fellow New Yorkers on September 11, 2001. And whereas, today, Liberty DeVito can be seen live with his Brooklyn, New York-based rock and blues band, the Slim Kings, who are working on their sophomore album, following their successful first album and single, Waterloo, which was released on charity CD, Songs for Sandy 2, along with releases from Paul McCartney and Dave Stewart. And whereas, Liberty DeVito is an honorary board member of Little Kids Rock, a nonprofit organization which puts instruments and music programs in underserved public schools worldwide. Each year, he is also the house drummer for the yearly LKR Gala, driving the beat for such performers as Bruce Springsteen, Tom Morello, Elvis Costello, and many others. And whereas this exemplary man remains a band member for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation, lectures globally for Sticks and Skins, and is a founding member of the New York City Hit Squad. He is also a member of the Recovery Squad, a band and program dedicated to rock and roll and sober living. And whereas Liberty DeVito resides in Brooklyn with his loving wife, Anna, he continues to lecture, interview, and play music all over the world. And whereas Liberty DeVito has truly distinguished himself in his career and community involvement, and the Italian-American community and all of New York State have profited greatly from his talent, dedication, and service. Now, therefore, be resolved that this legislative body pause its deliberations to commend Liberty DeVito upon the occasion of being selected as 2014 Italian-American Day honoree, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution suitably engrossed be transmitted to Liberty DeVito.
Senator Carlucci on the resolutions.
Well, buongiorno, Madam President. And today is the day we celebrate Italian-American Day. We celebrate Italian-American Day in our state capital, so it's an exciting day. But it's not just any random day. Today marks Festa della Repubblica Italiana, which is the day shortly after World War II where fascism ended in Italy and it became a democratic republic. So today we find it fitting to celebrate all of the contributions that Italian Americans have had in this great state, as well as our entire nation. And we have two distinguished gentlemen that are here in our chamber today, proud Italian Americans that we can all be proud of as well. You've heard the Secretary of the Senate read their long reso about all of the contributions that both Tony Danza and Liberty DeVito have had in this great state. Tony Danza, as we all know, has been entertaining millions of Americans for over 30 years, although we would never tell by looking at him. But he's also now, he was telling me about he's getting ready for a new Broadway play that will be coming out soon, Honeymoon in Las Vegas, which we're all going to be looking forward to. But more importantly than all of that, Tony Danza has used his celebrity as a force for good. And we had an opportunity to chat earlier. You heard a little bit about it in the reso, but about how he's working with the New York City Police Department. And he's working with our new mayor, Bill de Blasio, to bridge the gap between some of our at-risk teens and the police department. And you see Tony Danza really light up when he talks about really using his celebrity to bridge the communities. And that he'll go to some of these meetings and see some of these teens that before were very fearful and standoffish. But by the end of the meeting, we're able to work and really joke around and be cordial with the police department. So you see right there the good work that he's doing. And Liberty DeVito, as you had heard in the resolution, has used his star power and his celebrity, being a drummer. Many people have referred to him as the drummer's songwriter, and how he's worked with Billy Joel, with Elton John. The list goes on and on. But something that he's been doing that's really made a huge contribution to New Yorkers is allowing and making sure that students that want to pursue their musical talents have access to those instruments. And Liberty DeVito has used his star power to enable children that otherwise wouldn't have access to those musical instruments to be able to really fulfill their talent and their joy. And also what's so fitting from Liberty DeVito, born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in Long Island, but is back in Brooklyn now. But he's joined by his parents here today, Josephine and Vincent. And what's so exciting is Vincent is a World War II veteran and served in the invasion in Normandy. And it's something that we all have great respect for. And considering the anniversary of last Friday, 70 years ago, that day, that the beaches of Normandy were stormed, it's just a tributing day that we have Vincent that was able to be here as we honor his son, Liberty. So on behalf of the Italian American Legislators Association, we thank both of you for your contribution to New York and to America, and as well as the students that have won the scholarship this year. We have 3 high school students, seniors, that are attending universities next year. They're going to Rensselaer Polytech, as well as Cornell University and SUNY Maritime. So we thank all of you for being here today, and we look forward to everyone joining us at Festa across the river at Troy at 6 o'clock tonight. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Carlucci. Senator Hoylman on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to thank Senator Carlucci for this resolution and the Council of Italian American Legislators and all the honorees. I wanted to speak about Tony Danza, since he's a constituent of mine who lives on the Upper West Side. I informed him of that moments before today's proceeding. You know, it is fitting that we are honoring Tony Danza, since last night was the Tonys. I hope everyone watched. I don't think it's named after Mr. Danza, but we do call it the Gay Olympics in my district. So we were all watching it very closely. You know, Mr. Danza is one of those rare actors, performers, who uses both the left and right side of his brain. He's both a boxer and very physical, and he knows probably every Broadway show tune there is. So I'm very pleased that he's in this chamber. I wanted to congratulate him for all of his charitable, philanthropic, public educational efforts, for being a true New Yorker, a true Upper West Sider, and representing so well here on the floor of the State Senate. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hoylman. Are there any other members wishing to speak on the resolutions? Seeing none, these resolutions were previously adopted. Oh, Senator Montgomery would like to speak.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. Just briefly, I want to thank Senator Carlucci for these resolutions and for honoring these great men. And I'm just meeting both of them, obviously, both of them having at one time or another claimed Brooklyn for home. Brooklyn certainly is where I represent, and a good part of that is the part of Brooklyn that is known as a very famous section of the city of New York where Italian Americans once lived in very large numbers and now still do. I want to just say to Mr. Danza in particular, I haven't met him before, I don't know him, he doesn't know me, but the one thing that I'm so impressed about, besides him being from Brooklyn, is the fact that he works with young people. And everyone knows how important that is to me, and I want him to know that today is a very special day, that I meet someone of his notoriety, his stature, his fame, and that he is also a person who cares a lot about young people. So I thank him, and I thank the Italian American Association for honoring these men who are really not only great in and of themselves, but great in what they do for citizens of our state and our city. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Montgomery. Senator Lanza.
I want to congratulate both honorees, Mr. Danza and Mr. DeVito, for answering what I believe to be a very high calling in life, and that is entertainment, bringing smiles, joy, happiness, laughter, Mr. Danza, to millions of people across America. They say laughter is powerful medicine, and truly both of you are very powerful individuals for bringing joy to people's lives, for allowing for the escape from the stresses of life. But in particular, I want to say something about Tony Danza. You know, as I listened to the resolution and the voluminous achievements he's had throughout his career and life, they are truly remarkable, and I want to commend both individuals for the charity and for the works and for giving back to the community. But there's something that was missing on that resolution. You see, in a matter of speaking, Tony Danza ran for public office. It's not something that he talks about often. He ran for the city council on Staten Island back in 2005. In a matter of speaking. Now, I happen to have been running for the city council on the South Shore of Staten Island. We have a lot of lawns on Staten Island. We have a lot of lawn signs on Staten Island. And just so happens that my name is one consonant, one letter off from Danza, Lanza. And some individual, I'm not sure whether to this day it was friend or foe, went around, and Senator Savino from Staten Island remembers this. I probably had over 1,000 lawn signs out very early in the campaign, and someone went around and changed the L very artfully to a D and put the name Tony above it. And at first we were a little concerned. We didn't know how this would affect the campaign. But it started with 1, and then there were 10, and then there were 50. There were probably, by the end of it, 200 Tony Danza for City Council signs on Staten Island. Well, Mr. Danza had a show, a great show then, and we had been in touch with the producers. We were going to go on the show, and then Mr. Danza, I believe, had to go out to California for something. But the bottom line is, I've never had the opportunity to thank you. As it turned out, I garnered over 80% of the vote that year, and I know I could not have done it without you. Thank you, Tony Danza.
Senator Farley on the resolution.
Yeah, I just want to rise as an Irish American to pay tribute to this Italian American, Tony Danza. There's something that's been obliquely mentioned, was his pugilistic career as a boxer. He was one hell of a fighter. 15-2, I believe. He should have been undefeated because he got a short deal in a couple of those fights. But by and large, he was fast, he could punch hard, and he was a terrific fighter and had a great career. Started there, then he went where the money is, back in show business. Tony, we're very proud of you and all that you've accomplished, and we're lucky to have you here.
Okay. Senator Diaz.
In behalf of all the Puerto Rican here in chamber, I cannot go without having my community be represented in honoring the Italian American today and Tony Danza. Who doesn't know Tony Danza? In recognizing Tony Danza, Madam President, we're recognizing the whole Italian community, especially those that reside in the Bronx, in Little Italy. The best restaurant, the best place to eat, the best place to bring you people and have a nice day on those Italian restaurants and that Italian food. So as a Puerto Rican, on behalf of the Puerto Rican community, and I believe on behalf of the Board of Presidents of the Bronx, we invite all of you to come to the Little Italy, Tony. Come there, and participate, and we honor you as a Puerto Rican. I feel so proud and so honored to meet you and to shake your hand, especially to have taken a picture with you that I would put in my office so everybody could see that I know Tony Danza. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Diaz. I'm sure Senator Klein would appreciate you inviting everyone to come to his district. Now, are there any other members wishing to be heard? Now it's your district. Moves around. Any other members wishing to be heard on this resolution? Seeing none, the resolutions were previously adopted on June 3rd. Senator Carlucci I'm sure you would allow everyone to be co-sponsor. Anyone not wishing to co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Libous.
Thank you, Madam President. I would guess that there may be some members that still would like to have their picture taken with Mr. Danza, and if that's going to take place, that would be fine as long as we do it in an orderly fashion. I would like to take up the reading of the non-controversial calendar at this time. And what I would ask is that members and staff keep their comments to a minimum.
Thank you. Secretary will proceed with the reading of the non-controversial calendar.
With Andy Lanza, that can be arranged also. Andy.
Yes.
Calendar number 186 by Senator Maziarz. Senate Print 6138A, enact amend the Public Service Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 202 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 2949A, enact amend the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act should take effect on the 60th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56, nays 3. Senators Kruger, Rivera, and Sanders recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 298 by Senator Laval, Senate Print 1853A, enact amend the Public Officers Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 355 by Senator Skelos, Senate Print 1388, enact amend the Penal Law.
Read the bill is laid aside.
Calendar number 462 by Senator Klein, Senate Print 2251, enact amend the Penal Law.
Read the last section.
Section 7, this act should take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56, nays 3. Senators Kruger, Montgomery, and Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 499 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 6691, enact amend the Mental Hygiene Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect on the 120th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 500 by Senator Gallivan, Senate Print 583D, enact amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, the statute shall take effect on the 30th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57, nays 2, Senators Montgomery and Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Ayes 58, nays 1, Senator Montgomery recorded in the negative. Calendar number 514 by Senator Zeldin, Senate Print 6582A, enact amend the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 558 by Senator Klein, Senate Print 2447, enact amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 575 by Senator Golden, Senate Print 2173A, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, the statute take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56, nays 3, Senators Kruger, Montgomery, and Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 577 by Senator Klein, Senate Print 3407B, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57, nays 2, Senators Montgomery and Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 603 by Senator Valesky, Senate Print 4652B, enact and amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect on the 180th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 606 by Senator Ranzenhofer, Senate Print 6577, enact amend the public authorities law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results. So I go like this, then you just pull. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 606, those recorded in the negative are Senators Gianaris, Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, Parker, Perkins, Rivera, Sanders, Serrano, Squadron, Stavisky, and Stewart Cousins. Ayes 47, nays 12.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 720 by Senator Seward, Senate Print 2895A, enact amend the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect January 1, 2015.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 720, those recorded in the negative are Senators Gibson, Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, and Perkins. Ayes 54, nays 5. Also Senator Sanders. Ayes 53, nays 6.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 725 by Member of the Assembly Sweeney, Assembly Print 5465A, enact amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 754 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 2940, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, the statute take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Montgomery recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 832 by Senator Bonasic, Senate Print 1879A, enacted amend the criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56, nays 3. Senators Kruger, Montgomery, and Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 842 by Senator Lanza, Senate Print 3774, enact amend the administrative code of the city of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
We're on Lance's part. You ready? Announce the results.
Relation to calendar 842, those recorded in the negative are Senators Diaz, DeLon, Gianaris, Gibson, Kruger, Latimer, Marchone, Montgomery, O'Mara, Parker, Peralta, Perkins, Rivera, Squadron, Stavisky, Stewart Cousins, and Katchik. Ayes 42, nays 17.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 863 by Senator Martin, Senate Print 6414, enact amend the limited liability company law.
Read the last section.
Section 11, the statute should take effect on the 30th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Sanders.
Up. When you're ready.
Ayes 55, nays 4. Senators Little, O'Brien, Sanders, and Stavisky recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 909 by Senator Farley, Senate Print 2933B, enact amend the banking law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Sanders.
Announce the results.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Sanders recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 932 by member of the Assembly Magnarelli, Assembly Print 829, enact amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1045 by Senator O'Mara, Senate Print 3289, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 7, the statute take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Perkins recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1104 by Senator Diaz, Senate Print 442, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, the statute take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1105 by Senator Montgomery, Senate Print 1410A, enact amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1106 by Senator Latimer, Senate Print 2060, enacting in relation to authorizing.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1108 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 2948, enact amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1109 by Senator Kruger, Senate Print 3143, enact amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1112 by Senator Adabo, Senate Print 3740, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1113 by Senator Golden, Senate Print 4444A, enact amend the civil practice law and rules.
Read the last section.
Section 8, this act should take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Rivera to explain his vote.
My colleagues, this is the first of many bills that we're going to be voting on, or one of the bills that we're going to be voting on, which was included in a package that a task force, a joint task force, presented a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to vote on the negative on this bill as well as other ones, and I'll have an opportunity. I hope I have an opportunity with a couple of the bills that are going to be laid aside to have a longer discussion. But the short version is that it is unfortunate that the majority of these bills, much like this one, go in the opposite direction of where we should be going. I think that in the last couple of years we've demonstrated that when we approach addiction as a public health issue and not a criminal one, we do better. This is a bill that unfortunately criminalizes a whole lot of behavior that is not criminal and ultimately would potentially lead to more incarceration. We've done a very good job in the last couple of years of both protecting public safety and making people in New York healthier by approaching addiction not as a criminal issue but as a public health one. This is the first of many bills which I believe do exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing. So I'll be voting in the negative, and when we lay a couple of the other bills aside, I will be making a case for why this is the wrong approach to take overall. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Rivera to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
Relation to calendar 1113, those recorded in the negative are Senators Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, Parker, Peralta, Perkins, Rivera, Sanders, and Squadron. Ayes 50, nays 9.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1114 by Member of the Assembly Colton, Assembly Print 1358, enact amend the Public Authorities Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Gibson recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1126 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 7125, enact amend the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1128 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 7169, enact amend the Penal Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Perkins to explain his vote.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I rise to express my appreciation for the extensive work that many members of this body have undertaken to address the epidemic and pervasive situation we find ourselves in with respect to heroin. I want to particularly recognize two members of the Senate Democratic Conference who have been leading voices on this issue for some time, Senator Kachik and Senator Gibson. We have before us today a majority of the bills that we recently released by a, quote, joint task force formed in March by the governing coalition in the Senate. While I support comprehensive legislative efforts to prevent opiate abuse and overdoses and to ensure that addicted individuals receive a full spectrum of efficacious interventions and treatments, I am concerned that far too many of the proposals before us simply apply heavy and punitive criminalization of this situation, which is the exact opposite of a public health-centered approach. I am concerned that in our haste to address an exponentially prolific and painful problem, we are in jeopardy of engaging in Rockefeller drug laws redo. I am troubled that we may be going back to the future by criminalizing everything in sight with respect to heroin, and I fear that such a broad brush of criminalization inevitably sweeps people up in it that at one point simply needed a public health intervention or a diversion program. We saw over the life of 2 generations, especially in districts like mine, how the Rockefeller drug laws destroyed families and communities because of a failed and excessive policing and punishment model. I want to be sure that we are not traveling in the same treacherous road as before. I will be supporting bills before us today that expand school and community-based prevention services, but those proposals that strictly prescribe a heavy-handed, penalty-only approach, I cannot support. Thank you. I'll be voting against this.
Senator Perkins to be recorded in the negative. Senator Krueger to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I too stand to rise to explain I am voting no on this bill and quite a few of the other heroin opioid criminal bills today. I appreciated Senator Perkins' comments because, in fact, on this specific bill, the flashback to the dangers of the Rockefeller drug laws became so clear to me, where we saw for decades, very often, disproportionately poor women who ended up being asked to serve as mules to carry quantities of drugs, ending up with some of the longest prison terms when in fact they were not really active in the drug trade other than doing the favor for someone, but because they had no knowledge to exchange with district attorneys. We saw cases where some of these people ended up with the longest drug terms, even though they clearly were not the drug king. And so I know we are all concerned about the growth in use of illegal opioids and heroin, and I know we are all concerned and want to make sure we can do everything to try to decrease access, get people the treatment, get people the education to understand why these drugs could be so dangerous for themselves and can in fact disproportionately kill them. I cannot, in good faith, support bills that simply change the language of what kind of drug we're talking about and put us back 40 years to the discussions about re-implementing a failed series of drug policies for the state. And this bill, for me, is exactly that story. So I'll be voting no, Madam President. Thank you.
Senator Krueger to be recorded in the negative. Senator Martins to explain his vote.
I rise to thank Senator Boyle for his efforts in sponsoring this bill, and I want to thank my colleagues who support this bill. And let's understand what this bill does. If you have 50 packets of heroin, there's a presumption there. And if there's one thing we heard during the hearings that we held across New York State, is the need to destigmatize heroin abuse. Focus on the individual, focus on providing help, but there's one place where we should not be lenient, there's one place where we shouldn't turn our backs, and there's one place where we should not hesitate, and that's where people are dealing drugs, and specifically in those areas where people are selling death to our children, we have an obligation and a responsibility to stand up. So I want to thank Senator Boyle for sponsoring this piece of legislation. Frankly, I don't know what this discussion is about. I hear Rockefeller drug laws, and I hear it in the context of perhaps a bogeyman out there somewhere. That's not what this does. We are here to hold people responsible who are poisoning our kids, but we're also here to make sure that we destigmatize those who are addicts and provide them with relief. That's what this does. So I'll be voting aye, and I again want to thank Senator Boyle and all of my colleagues who support this piece of legislation because, dear colleagues, this is what we're here for. We're not here for rhetoric. We're not here for posturing. We're here to help people who need help. We're not here to drive up concerns about failed past policies in this chamber and in this state. I'll vote aye.
Senator Martins to be recorded in the affirmative. Any other members wishing to explain their vote? Seeing none, announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1128, those recorded in the negative are Senators Krueger, Montgomery, Parker, Perkins, Rivera, and Sanders. Ayes 53, nays 6.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1138 by Senator Marchone, Senate Print 7649A, enact amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1139 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 7650, enact amend the mental hygiene law.
Secretary, return to calendar 1138. He wanted to be a no. Senator Rivera wanted to vote no on that bill, so we just correct the...
In relation to calendar number 1138, ayes 58, nays 1, Senator Rivera recorded in the negative.
Bill is still passed.
Calendar number 1139 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 7650, enact amend the mental hygiene law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Senator Carlucci to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, and I want to thank my colleagues in the chamber today for voting yes on these important pieces of legislation. Heroin and opiate abuse has really been an epidemic across our state, and over the past few months where we've been able to have hearings throughout the state, we've heard the pleas for help. And I want to thank my colleagues for finally getting real about treating addiction for what it is. Addiction is a disease, and we need to make sure that people are getting the treatment that they need. And by passing this package of legislation today, we're closing that gigantic loophole that currently exists in our system where we see countless amounts of people falling through the cracks. I really believe that the legislation that we're passing today, we will save lives. So I want to thank my colleagues for voting in the affirmative. We've got a lot of work to continue to do. It's not going to be just one piece of legislation that's the silver bullet. It's going to be a package of legislation that encompasses almost every part of this state and every agency to make sure that we finally tackle this problem of heroin and opiate abuse, but also tackling the problem of addiction. And I believe we do that here today. So I'll be voting in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Carlucci to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Rivera to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd want to thank Senator Carlucci for the introduction to this bill, as well as for his explanation, because I think that we need to underline what he just said, which I believe is absolutely on the money. When we're talking about addiction, we should talk about it as a public health issue. And this bill, in particular, I'm happy to say it is one of the bills that was introduced in this package that does just that. It is sad that, considering what Senator Carlucci just said, that there are many other bills in the package, which again we will discuss, which do the exact opposite of treating addiction like a public health issue. So I am very glad to vote in the affirmative on this bill, but again, I'd point to some of our colleagues and say, why did we not go in this direction with every single bill in the package, as opposed to the way that we went the other way? So vote in the affirmative and looking forward to the discussion we'll have shortly. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Rivera. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1140 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 7651A, enact amend the mental hygiene law.
Bill is laid aside.
Calendar number 1141 by Senator Martin, Senate Print 7652A, enact amend the Family Court Act.
Read the last section.
Section 10, this act should take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 58, nays 1. Senator Rivera recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
41. Calendar number 1142 by Senator Martin, Senate Print 7653, enact to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect on the 1st of September.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1143 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 7654, enact amend the mental hygiene law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1144 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 7655A, enact directing.
Read the last section.
Section 3, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Montgomery to explain her vote.
Yes, President, thank you. I'd like to explain my vote on this legislation. Once again, in a very rare moment in history, I certainly agree with Senator Nozzolio on this bill, and I'm very happy that he is looking at a way to redefine those huge facilities around the state that will be hopefully soon enough being vacated for the correctional association, for the correctional purposes, and that we can look now, based on this legislation, to ways in which we can redefine those facilities. I only would ask that Senator Nozzolio, while he has talked about looking at them for purposes of drug treatment facilities, that we may look at them for opportunities for some other uses as well that would be positive. And I dare say that this particular move helps us to move away from this extensive reliance on mass incarceration, but rather to use some of our state resources in those facilities for a broader and much more positive purpose. So I commend Senator Nozzolio, and I am certainly going to vote yes in support of this legislation.
Senator Kachik to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I authored legislation to take a look at taking the savings from these facilities that we are closing and to put that money into treatment and prevention programs for heroin addiction. And I would urge the sponsor to include looking at the savings, using the savings from these closures of these facilities and putting that money into treatment and prevention programs. So I would urge that that report look at that issue as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Kachik, how do you vote?
I vote in the affirmative.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1145 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 7656, enact amend the corrections law.
Read the last section.
Section 4 of the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Rivera to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, and you all are going to get tired of me, yes. But this one in particular is one of the bills that, as we pointed out in the past, as I pointed out just earlier, deals with addiction not as a public health matter, but as a criminal one. I had an individual, a gentleman in my office this morning who actually was, because of the amount of opiates that were found on him, he was a heroin addict at one point, and he is now not only fully recovered, but working to advocate on behalf of other folks who are addicts. And he described to me how he had served for a year and a half of a 3 to 6 year sentence, precisely because he was in the shock treatment inside the correctional facility. He is now, again, as I said, a productive member of society who is advocating on behalf of folks that find themselves in the same situations that he once found himself. So what we're saying here is that we are taking away the ability of somebody who, through treatment inside the facility, might be able to get rid of addiction and therefore be able to come out and be a productive member of society. So this is one of the many bills in which we're moving in the opposite direction of where we should move at. So I will be voting in the negative. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Rivera to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1145, those recorded in the negative are Senators DeLon, Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, Perkins, Rivera, Sampson, and Squadron. Ayes 51, nays 8.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1146 by Senator Robach, Senate Print 7657, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3 of the statute take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57. Ayes 56, nays 3. Senators Delan, Kruger, and Rivera recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1147 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 7658, an act to amend the civil practice law and rules.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes
Senator
56, nays
Wait.
3.
Senator Nozzolio to explain his vote.
Madam President, thank you for the opportunity to explain my vote and discuss this measure regarding within the context of the measures we have enacted as part of the legislative package from the New York State Senate Opiate Task Force on opiate addiction. I want to thank the chairman of that task force, Senator Phil Boyle, for his tireless efforts across the state in analyzing the extent of the heroin problem and developing a number of solutions towards solving that problem. I especially want to announce the focus of the task force was one on prevention, treatment, and ensuring of the appropriate prosecution of those who engage in this behavior. The measure before us today, Madam President, is a measure that will ensure more dollars go to treatment because it was clear throughout the task force's deliberations that there was not adequate support for drug treatment, and that this will place more funds at the disposal of those who are caring for those who become addicted and to change their lives to get them out of their addicted behavior. This is just one of 25 measures that we're very pleased that have been enacted and will be enacted, and that I'm pleased to carry this particular measure. This issue is not an issue for just certain inner cities of this state anymore. It's an issue that's pervasive in our suburbs, in our small cities, and even in our rural areas. So, Madam President, I thank the members who supported this measure, and then I look forward to continuing the efforts to stop this very serious epidemic.
Thank you, Senator Nozzolio. To be recorded in the affirmative, announce the results.
Ayes 56, nays 3. Senators Delan, Kruger, and Rivera recorded in the negative.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1148 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 7659, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last bill is laid aside.
Calendar number 1149 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 7660, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act to take effect 1 year after shall become law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1150 by Senator Hannan, Senate Print 7661, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the same date and same manner as chapter of the laws of 2014.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1151 by Senator Seward, Senate Print 7662A, an act to amend the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 12, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, DeFrancisco, Klein, Libous, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Gibson to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to commend my colleagues for joining and supporting this piece of legislation. It is a good step forward in dealing with what I think we all know is a major epidemic that is affecting all parts of our state. Just in my district alone, the deaths from heroin have risen almost 40% in the last year. And one of my counties, Putnam County, is now seizing 3 times the amount of heroin they were getting just this time last year. I know that this is not an unusual story because it's happening at that same level across the state, and it's all the more reason that I'm proud that this body is taking this issue so seriously. I know, like many of you, I've met with so many families that have suffered so desperately. They've lost loved ones due to heroin. Their families have been devastated economically. And I just want to take a minute to thank all those individuals, those brave individuals that have stepped forward to work so hard to educate all of us about the importance of our work on this issue. It's just a small step forward. We need to take many more to hold insurance companies accountable for covering the cost of rehab and the treatment that these victims deserve. You know, we need to make sure that all New Yorkers have the coverage that they deserve, the best medical service that we can get them, not just what is affordable to insurance companies. So I hope that we will continue to work on this issue, and I will be supporting it, and I will be voting yes.
Senator Gibson, to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1152 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 7663, enact amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3 of this act shall take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, D. Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1152, those recorded in the negative are Senators Kruger, Montgomery, Perkins, Rivera, and Sanders. Ayes 54, nays 5.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1155 by Senator Felder, Senate Print 7691, enact amend the education law.
Bill is laid aside. Senator Libous, that completes the reading of the non-controversial calendar.
Madam President, at this time, I'd like to go to the controversial reading of the calendar, but I'd like to start with calendar number 1155, please.
Secretary will proceed with the reading of the controversial calendar and proceed with, Secretary, ring the bells. And then we will proceed with the reading of calendar number 1155. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 1155 by Senator Felder, Senate Print 7691, enact amend the education law.
Senator Flanagan, an explanation has been requested.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm Senator Kruger. This is a bill that is similar to legislation that was advanced last year, but this year it's slightly different. It is primarily for the City of New York, and it has to deal with special education placements. And there are two primary sections of this bill. One deals with, I think, codifying and trying to conform to statutory and regulatory guidelines that exist both at the federal and state level. And the second is to basically make sure that people are paid in a timely capacity and that districts, parents, and students are protected in their pursuit of an appropriate free public education in the least restrictive environment.
Madam President, if Senator Flanagan would take some questions.
Senator Flanagan, do you yield?
Yes.
Senator Flanagan yields.
As you said, this is the second year this bill has come to the floor. Why are you always the one answering when you're not the sponsor?
Senator Kruger, I am a sponsor of the bill.
I'm sorry. Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Flanagan yields.
My materials say that Senator Felder is the sponsor of the bill.
Senator Felder is the sponsor of the bill, as is Senator Flanagan. I think I can make a representation on my own behalf. I am a sponsor of this legislation.
Through you, Madam President, if the co-sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Flanagan, do you continue to yield?
Yes.
Senator
Thank you.
Flanagan yields.
So if the co-sponsor could just clarify what specific things change in the process that parents would go through in getting approval for a child to go to a non-public setting for their education. We know what the current law is. I'm asking what specifically would change in the process.
Well, I would say two things. Right now, and there I've looked at some things that have been written out about this legislation. I look at this probably no different than most people. When I think about educational issues, I think about placements, students with special needs, children with disabilities. I try and think, what would I want for my own children? What would I want the process to be? How would I want to be able to access that? And what kind of protections and safeguards would I want to have on behalf of my own kids, and approach it in the same way when looking at this? And when parents think about themselves, that's one thing. When they think about their children, they jealously guard their education, and they will be zealous, they will be passionate, they will be assertive, they will be aggressive, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with any one of those components. That is, of course, balanced by what federal law and regulation is, state law and regulation, and school district policy in terms of CSEs and CPSEs, and the creation of IEPs every single year for children with disabilities. And I would say, basically right now, a parent is entitled, under existing law, contrary to some of the things that have been written about this, under existing law, parents are entitled to make a unilateral placement. If they disagree with the determination made at the CSE level, they have a right now to go out and place their child in a different setting. What we have done is make sure that these timelines are adhered to, and there is clearly an acute problem in the city of New York in terms of adherence to not only state but federal guidelines. And so we, I believe, codify that, and we provide protections so that if there is a determination that goes, particularly in this case in favor of a parent, that there will be some timely recitation or reduction of that into a written agreement so that if a parent prevails, they're not waiting another 9 months or a year to be properly paid.
Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Thank you. So my reading of this bill and the number of memos I've gotten in opposition is that a change in the system is that under current law, you may place your child in a private placement if you don't think the public school placement is adequate to meet their needs, but no one pays the private school until such time and a process has been gone through that determines there is not an option within the public education system to meet your children's needs. And that in this change of law and process, you would place your child in a private placement before any determination was made, and the school system would be obligated to pay for that placement for as long as any process played out of hearing, appeal, et cetera. Would you agree that's a change?
I would completely disagree. In fact, the most fundamental point that you raised is probably the most salient one, and that is you made reference that nobody pays any tuition. That is quite contrary to the practice, the public policy, and if you talk to parents who are involved in these issues,
Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
well, Senator Kruger, I'd like to finish my answer to your first question.
Certainly.
Senator Flanagan will complete
You
his
made,
answer.
but
and
these
then
are
yield.
very important facts. Right now, if a parent makes a unilateral placement, more often than not, in a large disproportionate number of cases, they are paying tuition during this process. If they are so lucky, if I could describe it that way, to work out some agreement with a school that will all be held in abeyance while this process works itself out, that would be by far the exception rather than the rule. So let's be clear. Parents pay. That's one of the reasons we have this bill. And school districts are not obligated to pay.
Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Flanagan. do
Senator
you
Kruger,
continue?
what I'm trying to do is finish my answer to your first question still. You
Then
asked,
why did you stop? I
because
didn't
you were
ask to
consulting
stop.
with counsel, and I figure if I'm going to...
Senators. I was...
Sit here and understand what's going on, but if they go through the chair, it becomes crystal clear.
Thank you, Senator Libous. I was just about to say that. Senator Kruger, please, and Senator Flanagan, please remember to go through the chair.
But I won't ask another question until the sponsor feels that he has fully completed the answer.
Senator
So the
Flanagan.
previous
Thank you.
question.
Madam President, through you, to finish my answer to the question, I'll repeat very briefly. Parents pay tuition. It is highly unusual for parents not to pay tuition throughout this process. And I'll come back to facts and figures and statistics that would underscore why this is a grave concern, again, in the city of New York. The second part is school districts are not obligated to pay under current law, nor are they obligated to pay under this legislation until such time as there is a final determination at one of several levels, either at the independent hearing officer level, at the state review officer level, by a court of competent jurisdiction, which is primarily federal court, or if there happens to be a settlement agreement between the district and the parents.
Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Krueger on the bill.
Thank you. I think the fundamental difference is that the reading of the bill that most people who are in this field have taken positions on is that under the law being proposed today, after first hearing, the school district would be obligated to pay the tuition in the private placement, even if that was just the beginning of the process. And under current law, it's a year-by-year determination, and under this change in law, it would be throughout perhaps the entire public education time frame for the child if there were still disagreements and appeals being gone through. So it's the shift of burden, default burden, to the public education system as opposed to the rights of the parent to challenge that there is not adequate public placement for their child, but not a payment from public education to private school until such time it has been determined that there is no adequate public placement. Under the current system, and this bill differs from last year by being only for the city of New York. I think we would agree that's the difference between last year's version and this year's version. New York City already pays close to $200 million per year in the current system. And there's a great concern that that number could double or more than double if we reverse the pattern of the default of the payment to private education. I believe that is why we have legislative memos of opposition from the New York State School Boards Association, who frankly are not just concerned for New York City, but for the precedent it would establish for the entire state of New York. The proposal is a significant and costly change in state policy, according to the New York School Boards Association. If the bill were enacted each time an impartial hearing officer makes a ruling in favor of a parent, the New York City School District would have to immediately begin reimbursing the parent for tuition retroactive to the date of the unilateral placement, even before the state review officer rules in the case. The district could continue to appeal, but would have to pay for the private placement during the pendency of the appeals process. If the final determination of the appeals is in favor of the district, the tuition already paid by the district could not be recouped from the parent or the school. This makes the district responsible financially for placements that are ultimately found to be inappropriate for the duration of all appeals. The Council of School Superintendents raises further concerns by establishing that this would discourage settlements as a tool for resolving disagreement, delaying the resolution of disparities. Under current law, when the school district and family enter into these settlements, the terms are the result of a negotiated agreement, which rarely, if ever, includes an agreement committing a school district to ongoing payments for future years. This law would establish the ongoing payments for future years. These settlement agreements have been limited to one school year. Specifically states chosen school does not constitute an appropriate, if the state has chosen it is not an appropriate placement. The, NYSET, New York State teachers, has voiced their opposition, highlighting the enormous cost that could be and would be factored in if this became law. The CSA memo of opposition, the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, highlighting again the disproportionate impact and the loss of public funds that would be made available. Now, I believe that parents should and will fight for the correct placement of their children. I also understand that the burden of cost in some of these decisions is enormous on individual school districts, and particularly the City of New York. The system we have set up, which everyone can say they have frustrations with, is not unlike the decisions that this House supports over and over to recognize that best practice in medicine has to be provided and paid for through insurance, but not everything that anyone says they want to have done medically is provided and paid for by insurance. In this case, we're talking about the decision about using taxpayers' dollars to make rational decisions about what children need in order to complete their education and what parents might believe their children deserve or ought to have at taxpayers' expense. And those can be very far afield. It's extremely difficult to say to a parent, you want A, B, C, D, E, F for your child, but actually under the law, the taxpayers are only obligated to assure A, B, C, D, E at a public education setting. There are many examples where parents successfully win their right to have supplemental services provided for their children in a public school setting, as they should. There are many examples where parents are successful in documenting that there is no adequate placement in a public school setting for their child, and they end up in a private setting with the taxpayers paying for it. But changing our system and reversing it so that the default is that the public education system pays the private tuition during what can be a complex, fact-based legal process is not in the best interest of the 19.5 million New Yorkers that we attempt to represent, and it certainly can cause chaos in school systems, large and small. Again, this bill this year has been changed, I guess, to be only New York City so that school districts around the state wouldn't continue their objections to this being mandated upon them as unfunded mandate. Not only do I not find it acceptable to argue if it's just an unfunded mandate for New York City, we're all fine with it, but in fact, since the opposition memos are from basically the exact same organizations throughout the state that were opposed to the earlier version that was statewide, I think that the education advocates in our state and the school board associations and the administrators of our public schools, wherever they reside in New York State, understand this is the wrong law for our state, and understand if this were to become law applicable only to New York City, it would be a short jump to implementing it statewide. There are also constitutional issues that have been raised about this law and why it would not meet constitutional standards, but I'll leave that debate for when and if someone ever has to go to court to challenge the law. I actually think the simpler answer is, let's not make this a law. I'm urging my colleagues to vote no and to review the memos that I know we all got today. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Krueger, how do you vote? Oh, we're on the bill. Sorry. Senator Flanagan. I lost my place.
Thank you, Madam President. On the bill, I always try and do my best to listen to my colleagues' comments and take them to heart, and I do want to make a number of comments. I mentioned before about the role of a parent and where they see their children, and we took time since last year. We've had a number of meetings, met with the school boards, talked to the superintendents, talked to the State Education Department, talked to New York City Department of Education, and some of the changes that are in this bill are directly related to those conversations that took place in the past and that still take place now. If there's a better way to build a mousetrap, Senator Felder, and certainly I am very amenable to finding ways to ameliorate whatever the situation may be. But I also look and think, again, what are we doing for children? What is the least restrictive environment? What's the free and appropriate public education? And if you look at what is involved here, first of all, I completely disagree with a number of the comments that are in some of these memos. There's an assertion that this bill will cost $200 million. There is no evidence whatsoever. There's not one iota of documentation to substantiate that. If somebody's got it, bring it forward. If you can document something like that, that's something we could take a look at. But there's been no data provided or information provided that would show that would happen. That's number one. Number two, parents are caught between a rock and a hard place. They want to put their kid where they believe their child is going to get the most appropriate education. And let me give you some facts, because these things actually do matter. There are approximately 450,000 students in the state of New York who have an IEP. 410,000 in school age, 40,000 at preschool. So I ask questions. What about placement issues? What about tuition reimbursement? There were 784 cases in 2012-13. 693 of those cases on placement were in the city of New York. There were 3,947 cases on tuition reimbursement in the same year. In that same year, 3,823 of those cases were in the city of New York. This is really a problem that is focused more on the city than any place else. Now imagine this. You're a parent, you make what you believe is the appropriate placement. School district challenges that, you're now paying tuition out of pocket, and you have to go through the process, which is fine. Fine. 30-day resolution period, 45 days for an independent hearing officer, 30 to 60 days for a state review office, potentially going to court. And then, if you go through that arduous process and you happen to prevail, there's no stick. There's nothing that says the city of New York has to turn around and pay these folks who may have laid out $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 for their child. We put simplicity here and said, if you're going to have an agreement, it's got to have a timeline. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with saying there's got to be something that says somebody gets paid within 30 days? If the city of New York takes another 180 days, think of the position that puts a parent in. And here's the crazy part. This is where I completely disagree, this says that if tuition is going to be paid, that it's paid until such time as the CSE meets again, which they have to do every single year. So if you are a parent, you place your child in a private setting, they are obligated by law to reject that in the coming year. So you're now going through this process, laying out money, trying to figure out where you're going to end up, really worrying about your child, and then you have to start it all over again. So, I mentioned a number of cases. The State Review Office. Imagine you're a parent going through this. The law says 30 to 60 days. There are 223 cases open as of May 19th. There are over 100 cases at least that are over 300 days. That is ludicrous. What we are trying to do is get some strict adherence to guidelines, and it says, by law, the school district, when they do this CSE, which they are obligated to do each year by federal and state statute, they have a legal obligation to reject that placement. So there's no payment in perpetuity. Parents have to fight and swim upstream every year. I am very cognizant of the cost of special education, as we all are. And that's an issue that we will grapple with separately. But I believe this is a fair, balanced, reasonable bill, and we have actual facts. Think of the number of the cases that I talked about. Imagine yourself going through that. Imagine your constituents coming to you. What would you want to say? I want to be able to say to them, we put something in writing that's going to make it better. And here's the thing. This whole thing about an unfunded mandate, give me a break. There's no guarantee that parents win. There are cases that show where parents lose. They can lose at the hearing level. They can lose at the state review level. They can lose in court. If they win, guess what? That's what they're entitled to by law. We're not giving them anything extra. We're complying with what the law will be. So that notion that this is somehow an additional cost or an unfunded mandate, you and I are not making that determination. That will be made by an independent party or a state review officer or a court of competent jurisdiction. And I am perfectly fine with that. Let them adjudicate each of those cases on the merits. So this notion that it's an unfunded mandate is, in my opinion, that's offensive. It's offensive to the parents who bring their children through this process. I believe this is a good bill, and I said, if there's a better way to do it, let somebody bring it forward. If someone thinks it costs $200 million, show us. I have these cases right here. I got actual facts from the State Education Department. So we did our homework to make sure that when this discussion took place, it was on the merits and not on the hyperbole. Thank you.
Are there any other members? Oh, Senator Krueger.
Sponsor, please yield.
Senator Flanagan, would you yield? Yes. Senator Flanagan yields.
So the sponsor just suggested in his analysis that if there's some reasonable way to deal with the issue, he's open to it. So I just want to clarify that he does agree that under this law, if it became, this bill, if it became law, while he makes the argument that the odds are against the parents and it's unfair, that parents challenging their child placement and who enrolled the child in a private school, the private school becomes the child's stay-put placement. If on appeal the SRO agrees with the parents, the child's placement should be changed. And in that instance, the school district becomes financially responsible for maintaining the child at the private school pending further appeals, so that his frustration, if I may say that word, of the current system is completely reversed to assure that the stay placement, even if it's been ruled not to be the only appropriate site, becomes the default placement where the public education system must continue to pay for this placement.
No, I don't agree. In fact, the characterization, if we're going to use terms of art, then it's important to have the right verbiage. It's a pendency placement. That's the court, that's the case law language, replete through all these federal cases. So if you're talking about a pendency placement, Senator Krueger, that ties into what we were talking about before, and there is language in the bill, since you raised it, on page 2, lines 25 thereafter, until the Committee on Special Education determines the child's needs can be met in another public or a private school program and revises the child's IEP to recommend such placement. Let's say you go through the process. You are now prevailing, and for whatever unknown reason, the process works in a timely fashion. You are now getting your tuition paid for your child for the balance of, we'll say, the 14-15 school year. That school district is obligated to do a review of that child's IEP, at which time, by law, they will continue to reject that further placement. That stops the payments. That language stops the payments. So it is not in perpetuity, is not in future years. It is only until such time as the Committee on Special Education makes a determination on the IEP.
Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Flanagan yields.
I appreciate the language correction, but my understanding is that as long as the parent continues to appeal, the child is, quote unquote, kept stay put in the private school placement, tuition is paid, and cannot be recouped at a later date. But my question, Madam President, for the sponsor,
Senator Krueger, let me just, if I may, through you, Madam President, I simply don't agree with that assertion. And I would ask you, show me exactly in the bill where you believe that language to be.
Madam President, on page 2 of the bill, section 2, there is a series of underlined new language, closing with, where the parent or persons in parental relations brings a due process proceeding to challenge such revised placement, the unilateral parental placement for which tuition payment was granted shall be the pending placement as provided in subdivision 4 of this section. So as long as the parent, I read this, that as long as the parent is appealing the decisions, the child remains in the private placement with the school system obligated to pay.
Respectfully, Senator Krueger and I, we're just going to, Madam President, through you, I read operative language that I think covers the concern that you have. And by the way, let me be crystal clear. I have the same concern. I have a legitimate concern. I want to make sure that it's done properly and it's done in a financially sound way. So fundamentally, yes, in a given school year, if it happens to work out, and by the way, this also could be done through settlement. If they come to a quote-unquote final determination by settlement, that settlement will only last until the next determination of the Committee on Special Education. So the language that prevents the issue that you're raising is, again, lines 25 through 29. 28.
Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Flanagan yields.
Again, referencing the same paragraph in response to your answer, such tuition payment shall continue in future years at the same percentage of the total tuition cost as the previous year's payment until the committee determines the child's needs can be met in another public or approved private school program. Those are lines 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So he shares my concerns. We share the same concerns. What we don't agree on is what this bill does to the law, that it defaults to allowing parents to continue to appeal as they would because their child's in the placement they wanted, paid for by the school system, so they would continue to appeal. And the way this law, as I read it in these paragraphs, it will obligate the school system to continue to pay the school, not just now, but into future years. And there would be no incentive not to negotiate or settle, because actually I have my child exactly where I wanted them. So I will continue to appeal, and I will not settle. And the school system will be, according to this, I believe, required to continue to make payments, not just in a one-year period as is current law, but into future years. And this is my fundamental concern with changing this law. I don't even know if I had a question in there, Senator Flanagan, so
Well,
I'm
I certainly have
happy
a
to-
comment, so.
There you go.
Madam President, through you. Senator, we agree on the very basic point that the cost is important, the placement is equally as important, particularly you are a parent of that child. I'm talking to you about the language and what I believe to be the legislative intent. I could make a factual, I think a very strong argument that given the nature of this process, it is unlikely that these folks are going to find themselves in this situation on a regular basis, and I would say it in this way. The process now takes long enough that, number one, I don't believe that a district will be obligated to make those payments until a final determination, which is laid out in 2 sections of the bill, speaking to the various levels. If you lose at the independent hearing officer, you have a right, an absolute right, district or parent, to go to a state review office. If you lose there, you have an absolute right to go to court, and overwhelmingly these cases go to federal court. Part of the problem here, as I said before, you have a number of cases that are pending in the state review office that go well beyond 1 year. And by the time these things get determined, not only has the child's placement potentially changed, but you are already under a new IEP. So there are vagaries in this process that really make it difficult for parents to make sure that their child is getting the best appropriate education in the least restrictive environment.
That the sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator
Yes.
Flanagan. Senator Flanagan yields.
Given the sponsor's passion in support of this bill, why did he change it from last year for it to be New York City only? Why can't it be for your school system too?
I have worked with Senator Felder. I've worked with various groups on this subject, and I believe we have made a strong, simple case in terms of looking at the facts. If at some point it becomes advisable to look at this in a statewide capacity again, I would certainly do that. Obviously, did not shy away from doing it last year, but I laid out for you 97% of these cases occur within the city of New York, so it would stand to reason that if they were trying to rectify something that is not working as well as it should, that that is a prudent course of action.
President, on the bill.
Senator Krueger on the bill.
The sponsor and I say we are in agreement about our goals and in agreement that we should not be driving up the cost of public education by setting up a system that incentivizes a parent to continue to fight and reject over and over again decisions by educators, education specialists, and these teams that actually exist under state law already to make what is the right interest, the right decision for both the child and under state law for the school system. And yet, we go in completely opposite directions on this bill because I'm quite sure that this bill will incentivize a massive number of additional people to not accept the decision of their local school districts, place their children in a private setting, and watch as the clock ticks out for years and the school system has to pay for the child in a private setting, even though the educators and the experts said there's solutions within the public setting. I get that parents want the best for their children. All parents want the best for the children. And I also get that many parents would like every imaginable service for their child if they can figure out how to get someone to pay for it. My concern is that in a public education system with limited dollars, we will create a new universe of people who win through default, not because that is the best use of limited public dollars, but because we will default the system to be in their favor in a private school setting, and it will be so exceptionally difficult to reverse that or take so long to reverse that. And again, I don't think there's disagreement. If there is ultimate reversal, public education can't recoup those costs. It can't go to the parents and say, well, you were wrong, so you have to pay us. It won't be able to go to the school and say, it was an incorrect placement, you have to give us the money back. That won't happen. We will see an enormous drain of public dollars to a sub-universe of much more expensive private placements. I want our public school system to have better options for all children. I want our public school system to have better options for children with special needs. It frankly appalls me that so many children currently get sent to private placements because we're not doing our job and having enough of quality special needs services within our public school system. It appalls me we send children out of state to residential placements because we don't have adequate school settings in the state of New York. I just know that this legislation would send us down the wrong path to have even less money available for public education. And while I empathize with parents' goal of always getting the best answer for their children, this would create an even more uneven playing field with very disturbing outcomes of who the winners and the losers were, as opposed to using our public education funds to serve the broadest number of children with the best and most diverse options that we can within the public education system. I'm urging my colleagues to vote no. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Are there any other members wishing to be? Senator Hoylman on the bill.
Madam President, on the bill, I'm alarmed, Madam President, because there is no cost analysis on what this bill would portend for the city of New York. And, you know, I do believe that the sponsors have their heart in the right place, not necessarily our interests or our wallets in the right place. And how often does a liberal from Manhattan get to say that? It's true that parents are extremely conflicted, besieged, nearly traumatized by this process. I have many of my constituents who approach me about this. But let's be clear. This is an unfunded mandate. This is the mother of unfunded mandate. If we do not have, Madam President, any fiscal analysis on what this might cost, then why should we not believe advocates who say it could cost 200, 400, 600 million? If you can't counter that argument with contrary fiscal analysis, then I'm inclined not to believe you. And Madam President, if this is such a terrific idea, then I would hope that senators and other districts would propose this for their school districts, not for the city of New York. I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Senator Hoylman. Are there any other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, debate is closed. Secretary will ring the bells. Round them up. Read the last section.
Section 3 of the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Do you want to do it now?
You're on the roll.
Senator Felder, to explain your vote.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank my colleague, Senator Flanagan, for doing an extraordinary job. I've been congratulated by many of my colleagues for my debating skills, and I've learned that probably the best thing that I can do normally is be quiet and have people who know what they're talking about discuss the bill. So I'm not going to discuss the details of the bill, but I will say to you is that I am quite disturbed by some of the discussion that we had that related to dollars over and over and over again about how much special needs parents, a parent of a special needs child, should be allowed, not allowed, to make sure that their child gets the education that they think their child will benefit most by. And that relates to children getting education anywhere. But I will say to you that this bill is very personal to me, and it may be very personal to many of you in the room that have a relative or a child or a grandchild that needs special ed. God blessed my daughter, who doesn't live in New York City and will not benefit at all by this bill, with her third child, a child with Down syndrome, who has brought so much joy into her house and in our life, but will be a challenge for her and for the family, and of course her husband, for the rest of their days, God willing, in good health. The last thing, and I don't think it's funny, the last thing that she would need if she lived in the city would have to be subject to the torture that these parents have year after year after year, reviewing the same things over and over and over again. The same things. And until somebody in this room tells me that they figured out the cure for autism, or the cure for Down syndrome, or the cure for so many other disabilities, how in the world do we put parents through the same torture year after year? And I have to listen to some of my colleagues start going through saying something like, until we know otherwise. It could be 600 million. It could be 7 billion. Why didn't we say it would be 7 trillion? Maybe it is 7 trillion. Well, let me tell you what 7 trillion is. The tears and the heartache that the parents of these children go through every year. And it's not at the expense of public school children. Over and over, you hear the same thing, that if we do anything that will in any way help children that are getting services in anywhere but a public school, suddenly the public school system will dissolve. My mother attended public school, and the public school system in New York City is better than it's ever been, and will continue to exist. That's no excuse whatsoever of putting parents through hell year after year to get the services that they deserve, but even more importantly, that are mandated federally. This is not something that New York State or anybody in this room woke up one morning and said, let's do this. This is about ensuring that the city, in this case, is complying with what it's supposed to do, which is to make sure that every child gets the education that they deserve. And if a parent feels that there is another option that would give their child a better education and to give them a better chance at doing well in life to whatever degree they can do, that we should give it to them, I vote yes.
Senator Felder, to be recorded in the affirmative, announce the results. Oh, Senator Diaz, I'm sorry. Senator Diaz to explain his vote.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, after listening to Senator Felder, your arguments are more compelling to me than what Senator Flanagan did. And I congratulate you, because I was voting no, but after listening to you, I'm changing my vote to yes. Thank you.
Senator Diaz, to be recorded in the affirmative, announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1155, those recorded in the negative are Senators Avella, Breslin, Carlucci, Dilan, Gianaris, Gibson, Hoylman, Kennedy, Kruger, Latimer, Montgomery, O'Brien, Peralta, Perkins, Rivera, Sanders, Serrano, Stavisky, Stewart-Cousins, and Kachik. Absent from voting, Senators Addabbo and Espaillat. Ayes 37, nays 20.
Bill is passed. Secretary will proceed with the reading of calendar 1140. I would ask all members to please remain in the chamber so we can get through this as quickly as possible, since tonight is the Italian-American Legislators event.
Calendar number 1140 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 7651A, enact amend the mental hygiene law.
Senator Rivera has requested an explanation. Senator Carlucci.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill, I believe, is a very important bill. Today we've taken up a package of bills that will deal with opiate and heroin abuse. And after attending many of the hearings that we've had around the state, you hear about parents, unfortunately, being handcuffed on the sideline while they watch their children deteriorate and, in many cases, unfortunately die. This bill is in response to that, what we heard firsthand about what can we do to those families that know there's a problem, know that their son, their daughter, their relative needs help. We've set up a mechanism to do that, to allow for them to have assisted outpatient treatment, to deal with their addiction, to recover, and to get better. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Rivera.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would yield for a few questions.
Senator Carlucci, do you yield? Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, if the sponsor could actually break that down a little bit more as it refers to assisted outpatient treatment. Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor could tell me how the law currently exists as it relates to assisted outpatient treatment.
Unfortunately, there is no mechanism in place for assisted outpatient treatment. And that's the story we heard over and over again from parents that said it was too late. In cases where we heard about they saw the deterioration of their loved one. But unfortunately, in New York State, there's a huge loophole where there is no mechanism to receive that assisted outpatient treatment.
Through you, Madam President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. I should have made my question more clear, Madam President. I meant to say the way that assisted outpatient treatment is something that does exist currently in law. My question was for the sponsor, through you, Madam President, what population does it currently deal with, and how is it structured for that population?
Well, I believe the speaker is talking about the issue of Kendra's law that deals with mental illness in the state of New York, where there is a mechanism in place. What we've done with this legislation is deal with the issue of addiction, and we've curtailed it to the addiction of opiate and heroin abuse.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue to yield?
Yes.
Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to drill into that a little bit more. Currently, the assisted outpatient treatment law, what it does is, for the record, Madam President, it establishes a procedure for obtaining court orders to induce people who are mentally ill, have a history of psychiatric hospitalizations, or serious violent behavior towards self or others, and difficulty following a treatment plan, to adhere to a supervised outpatient treatment plan, which often includes continuing to take the appropriate medications to survive safely in the community. So through you, Madam President, just to clarify, what this bill would do then is to extend what currently exists for that population to folks that are opiate addicts. Is that correct, Madam President?
Well, I would say that to clarify that it is a completely separate issue. It has similarities, as the previous speaker had pointed out, but it is very much unique and it's separate. The idea here is we also have a council that is formed, making up the OASIS Commissioner, the Commissioner of Mental Health, the Commissioner of the Department of Health, and other experts that would be guiding the Commissioner of OASIS in terms of how to best regulate, have the regulations in place so that it's impacting and delivering the most effective results to the population that's needed.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. Maybe I should make my questions more specific. Currently, the law as it stands deals with a particular population that we are talking not about people that are addicted to opioids. We're talking about the mentally ill, and as I said, people that have a history of psychiatric hospitalizations, et cetera. And it currently, what it does to those population, and through you, Madam President, is to put those patients into court-ordered outpatient treatment. My question, Madam President, through you, is whether what this bill seeks to do is to take the population of individuals that are addicted to opioids and force them through court-ordered to a court-ordered outpatient treatment facility.
The idea here is that to have that mechanism where it would be court-ordered outpatient treatment for people that have addiction. So,
Could we have some silence in the chamber? We're having trouble hearing each other. Senator Carlucci, could you repeat your response?
The sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue to yield? Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Carlucci, do you have, what kind of expertise do you have in drug treatment specifically? Or if you don't, I certainly do not, but who were the individuals that maybe helped you put this piece of legislation together as it relates to a treatment for addicts? Through you, Mr. President. Through you, Madam President.
yeah, well, great, wonderful question. With the help of the task force on opiate and heroin addiction, the task force had a series of 18 hearings around the state. And it was a very tough time to hear the firsthand stories from many parents that unfortunately had lost their loved ones to heroin and opiate addiction. And this bill came particularly from the horrible situation that we heard in pretty much every hearing. Some had more circumstances or more instances than others, but where you talk to parents and they said, yeah, my son, he had a problem. We knew it. He caused harm to himself, to others, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe a half a dozen times. They were crying out for help, the parents, but there was nothing that they could do. Unfortunately, they were handcuffed. They were handcuffed on the sideline and could do nothing but watch their children die. And that's where this bill comes from, to say enough is enough. We've got to close the loopholes in the system, set up a mechanism where if there's a blatant problem, where someone is on their way towards total deterioration, towards the next step being death, that we need to step in, set up a process where they can get the treatment that they need.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I thought that procedurally we have to wait for you to acknowledge that he had done so. So through you, Madam President, while I certainly appreciate both the intent of the sponsor, and I also appreciate that some of those answers might be great talking points or might be great in the local news, I do have to ask more specific questions related to what the bill is intending to do, technically speaking. Through you, Madam President. And specifically, I'm talking in this instance about the type of treatment that would be available or not available, but in this case, court-ordered for individuals that are addicted to opioids. So through you, Madam President, if the sponsor could clarify what the bill is intending to do for that population, not necessarily of its intent as to, certainly I don't want to for a second minimize the pain of any family members or individuals themselves who find themselves in the throes of addiction. However, when we are talking about the type of drug treatment that individuals should receive, it seems to me, what this bill mandates is a coerced type of drug treatment that, in the experience of many folks that know much more about addiction than I do and have spoken to me, have told me that is not something that is, that functions as a way to stop someone from being addicted to a particular drug, in particular what belongs to opioids. So again, through you, Madam President, the sponsor could clarify if that's what the bill intends to do.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue to yield?
Yeah, absolutely. I continue to yield, and I'll answer that question. I respectfully disagree with the previous speaker, and it's laid out right in the bill explicitly about the services that would be provided in that outpatient treatment. We're talking about disorder services, detoxification, medication-supported recovery, individual or group therapy, day or partial day programming services and activities. The list goes on. But what's important to remember about this legislation is that we really leave it in the hands of the experts. Give the Commissioner of OASIS really the authority to regulate exactly those treatment options that will be available, which we find most effective, to be made up of not just the Commissioner of OASIS, but also to be made up of a panel of experts. That's laid out in the bill about how that will be set up. Because the main issue here, and I think the previous speaker is getting to, is that we don't have all the answers. We don't know, there really shouldn't be a cookie-cutter approach when it comes to treating addiction, and everybody is a little different. And that's why there is a multitude of services listed in the bill, but it shouldn't be just limited to what's in the bill today. That will be a work in progress made up of this advisory council with the Commissioner of OASIS.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor would continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue
Yes.
to yield? Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. I disagree with the statements of the sponsor, but I will, when I speak on the bill later, I will address them. I want to move on to a second part of general questions. As far as the cost of the bill, as far as its fiscal impact, Madam President, through you, what would the fiscal impact be on the state, or more importantly on localities, like counties, if this bill were to go into effect?
Well, yeah, the way the bill is written, there shouldn't be any cost to localities. And in fact, this type of legislation that doesn't exist right now in the state of New York and really will be closing a major loophole that exists, I believe eventually will be saving money for the state of New York in real dollars, but more importantly, improving the quality of life of thousands of New Yorkers around the state and ultimately saving people's lives, which is very hard to quantify with a price tag.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue to yield? Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. So is the sponsor's statement for the record that, as it refers to the costs of processing, serving, to initiate the assisted outpatient treatment order, as it relates to the cost of pickup of individuals, as it relates to the cost of physician services, and as it refers to the cost of program oversight, that there will be no cost for county or other localities?
Well, that's right. I believe that this will be picked up by the state, any costs that are incurred. But more importantly, we got to look at the long-term effects of this. The fact that this mechanism doesn't exist right now, and unfortunately, we're just sitting on the sidelines watching people deteriorate, getting worse, which in many cases costs the state and localities money, but doesn't address that human suffering factor and the quality of life that we're looking to improve for thousands of New Yorkers.
President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci. Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor be so kind as to point to me in the language where it specifies that there shall be costs that would be picked up by the state, as opposed to vague language that, that really potentially might leave the cost up to directors of community service or other entities at the local level, at the county level, to pick up again, who would be responsible potentially for picking up costs to pick up the individuals, for physician services, for program oversight, or serving to initiate an assisted outpatient treatment order.
Well, the specifics in terms of the cost, there's no specific requirement in the bill. Many of the costs are obviously picked up by these state agencies. Any costs incurred by any municipalities for any tiny costs that you might refer to or the speaker might refer to, I believe will be largely made up by the costs we save in hospitalization, emergency room visits, and the harm that's done to themselves and to others.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue to yield?
Yes.
Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. I also disagree with that, but I will address that when I speak on the bill. Moving to the last issue, are you familiar with Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996? Through you, Madam President.
Familiar, somewhat familiar, yeah.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Carlucci, do you continue? Yes, he yields.
Thank you, Madam President. And as it relates to the process, well, I'll wait for counsel to finish their conversation. Through you, Madam President. So are you familiar with the way that this particular act of Congress deals or manages the issues of privacy for individual patients?
Yes.
Okay. Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Carlucci yields.
Thank you, Madam President. So is it then the contention of the sponsor that, let's say that the subject would not voluntarily participate, and we already established that this is I'll wait for counsel. We already established that this would be a court-ordered, and I would term it coercive, you might not, but I would, type of treatment. Let's say that the subject does not voluntarily participate in the development of his or her treatment plan. If the physician needs that information to be able to determine what the treatment plan for this individual would be, then how would the bill figure out how that's going to be worked out, so to speak? Through you, Madam President?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, HIPAA is a major concern, and I think it's these concerns that have left politicians sitting on the sidelines not willing to take action. The reason why we put in this legislation very clearly that the Commissioner of OASIS with the Advisory Council will have the ability to affect the regulatory impact of this legislation, will be able to affect the regulations that they can address any HIPAA concerns in this legislation.
Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Rivera on the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank the sponsor for answering questions. As I stated earlier, this is one of the bills that was in the package of about 25 bills that was introduced by the task force on opioid. Remember, I forget the total. The Joint Task Force on Heroin and Opioid Abuse. There were about 25 bills, as we talked about earlier. A few of them passed today. Well, all of them have passed today so far. And some of them, some of us on this side of the aisle, and certainly I've supported, but there were more than a few, and this being one of them that I think is the wrong direction to go. There's a couple of issues that I have with this particular bill. First, as it relates to treatment of addiction, I think it is almost demonstrated fact, and certainly many of the individuals that I've spoken to that have been through treatment themselves tell me that when you coerce someone to actually go into a treatment facility, I should back up for a second, and I should talk about the assisted outpatient treatment law as it currently exists. We're talking about a particular type of population. We're talking, as I said earlier, about people that are mentally ill, have a history of psychiatric hospitalizations or serious violent behavior towards self or others, and difficulty following a treatment plan. That is the population that we're dealing with in current law. And in current law, where we're talking about this population would go to a court-ordered outpatient treatment facility, as opposed to people that are addicts. It is the understanding of much research that in those instances we're talking the things that will actually have the best impact on it probably are inpatient addiction, rehabilitation, or long-term residential treatment, and both of those in a non-coercive fashion. So what we're saying here is that we are going to have a court-ordered outpatient treatment facility to a population that is very likely not going to be cured of their addiction because of this, the way that they're forced to go into this particular treatment. The second question is one of cost, and I think it is important, not because dollars are more important than lives, not because dollars are more important than people's well-being or health, but because we have to be honest about where it is that the funds for whatever it is that we're suggesting is going to happen, and that the state is going to do, where the funds going to come from. And folks that know much more about this than I do, and these are individuals at the county level that are actually responsible for carrying out a lot of these programs, or at least in the way that the current law is written, current bill is written, would actually be potentially dealing with picking up a lot of the costs involved, are very much convinced that the language as it currently stands is too vague, and vague in a way that might actually put counties in a position where they have to pick up the costs for a whole host of things, whether it's to pick up individuals, for physician services, for program oversight, all of these things. If we're not specific about where this money is going to come from, there's a problem with the bill. And lastly, I do think that there's issues of privacy that are involved here which need to be addressed. In particular, as it relates to HIPAA, if you have an individual who does not want to participate in the program, if the individual does not want to participate in sharing his or her health information with whatever doctor is responsible for designing a treatment plan for them, then it is virtually impossible for them to be able to have a plan developed for them. And in the absence of this authorization, the entity that is responsible for carrying it out must go to a court to obtain the medical records necessary to support the petition. And actually there's another level, and for substance abusers, there would actually be an additional burden in the federal confidentiality law, which might create ultimately an insurmountable burden to the petitioner. Overall, unfortunately, I think that this bill is not the way that we should go about it to address people's addiction. It is from individuals themselves that have gone through different treatments throughout their lives to force individuals to go into a coercive type of drug treatment, as this bill would allow and would mandate, or would provide the possibility, I should say, would provide the possibility for individuals that are addicted, is a problem. I do not believe that this is the way that we should approach dealing with this type of treatment for individuals, and for that reason, for all those reasons, Mr. President, you all switched, I shall be voting in the negative. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rivera. Senator Robach on the bill.
President, on the bill, I want to applaud Senator Carlucci for putting this bill forward. After going to many and many of the hearings around town, but also even hearing personal stories, I can't say that I'm an expert on addiction or treatment, but I believe it's important to us as elected officials to listen to the family and the members of people who have unfortunately been impacted by this terrible epidemic of this very high-powered heroin we now have flooding the entire country. And, I always say as a legislator, whether they're in Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, New York, wherever it is, you have to listen to the people who are the most impacted. And this hits all of our districts, no question, not only in my home, your home. We even have in our Senate family, Patty Farrell, who was a sergeant of arms here, who shared the terrible story of her daughter, Laree Farrell Lincoln, who literally, unfortunately, OD'd from this high-power heroin. And her, like many other parents, said they wanted to get longer treatment, but they couldn't under the current existing process. Now, I don't know what the exact right answer is, but this package of bills put forward by Senator Boyle and all of us, really, this portion sponsored by Senator Carlucci, definitely is going to give parents in the future a lifeline or a greater chance that they're not going to go into inpatient treatment for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days that doesn't work, that we know after testimony, doctor after doctor, doesn't fit the bill and stop anybody. This is going to give people a chance for longer term treatment and hopefully avoid that unfortunately OD death that we know happen with people that work with us, people that we represent, sometimes even people in our own families. So I am going to vote yes for this bill. I think all these bills are critically important, but I think this is one of the most important bills. I did, yeah. Important bills that we are going to do, because that is what treatment professionals, doctors, and most importantly, the loved ones and even people who were heroin addicts, they had the courage to testify at these hearings all over the state saying that's what they needed most, longer time inpatient treatment. So I'm going to vote in the affirmative, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Robach. Senator Savino on the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I did come down from presiding because I did want to speak on this bill. And Senator Rivera, your concerns are valid, and I listened to them. But I want to share a bit about the experiences that we found listening during the heroin task force and in our own professional experience. I've spoken many times about my early experience as a caseworker in the child welfare system, where every client I had was the subject of an abuse and neglect petition because there was drug abuse or alcoholism in that family affecting other areas. And yes, we sometimes compel people into drug treatment or alcoholism treatment as a condition of retaining their children, as a condition of avoiding jail time, as a condition of something. And compulsory addiction treatment isn't always successful. I wish that it were. But it is a tool that we have used. But I have my own other experiences. I've spoken on this floor about my own personal experience and my own family's experience. I come from a very long line of addicts. And addiction is a disease, and I am very grateful now that people know that addiction is a disease. It's a legitimate one. It's not a character or moral defect. And it is a disease that affects so many families in so many ways. And every one of us that has seen that in our own family, whether it's Patty or Sergeant at Arms or the people who testified, they will talk about the struggle that they went through seeing a person that they care about killing themselves on a daily basis. Addiction is a disease that takes good people to very bad places. And it is one that harms families in a way because as a parent or a sister or a mother or a husband or a wife, you just want to take that person that you can see killing themselves on a daily basis and put them somewhere where they'll be safe. But our laws do not allow us to do that. We cannot involuntarily commit our loved ones who are suffering from addiction into a drug treatment program. They have to agree to go. And you know what happens to people who are in the throes of addiction? They're not particularly cooperative because they're afraid of success and they're afraid of change and they're mostly afraid of sobriety because sobriety is scary. And so this is a tool that families need to be able to tackle this so that they can get that loved one the service they need. When I was a caseworker, I used to tell my clients if I could finally capture their attention and get them to agree to go to treatment, I would tell them to go to the hospital and tell them that they were an alcoholic. I'd actually tell them, pick up a six-pack on the way, get drunk, and when you get there, because you're guaranteed a bed if you need to be detoxed from alcohol. You're not guaranteed a placement from opioids. You're not guaranteed a placement for anything other than alcohol and benzodiazepam. Heroin addicts don't need to be detoxed. But when you have a heroin addict who comes to you and says, I need help today, if you don't have a place to put them, guess what? They're gone tomorrow. That's what this bill will do. It will give families the ability to be able to compel their loved ones to try and save their life. Will it work? See, sobriety only works if you want it to. But you first got to get them in the door. And unfortunately, for too many families, they can't get them in the door because the door is shut before they even knock on it. That's why this bill is important. That's why I felt the need to come down and talk about it. And I want to thank Senator Carlucci. And I want to thank you for your comments, too. They are legitimate. They are real concerns. But I think we need to take this step forward. I'm going to vote in favor of this bill, Mr. President.
Senator Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Addiction is a disease, and it is a big problem in our communities. Many people get to be a drug addict for many reasons. And once they become drug addicts, it is very difficult for them to kick the habit. When I was 18 years old in Puerto Rico, I joined the Army. And because of the racism in the Army and all over in Fort Jackson, Georgia, and the problem that I faced in the Army, when I came back to Puerto Rico, my life was destroyed. And became the point when even my family wanted me to sometime to die. And I remember one brother telling me, so many good people die, and you don't die. Why don't you die? And because of my Lord, of Jesus Christ, or because my faith made me turn my life. And because of that, 1965, I changed. But I experienced the problem. I experienced what is it to be there. And I also experienced finding places to be, to sleep, and I'm not getting any. So anything, any help that this body could give mothers, parents, and even the person addicted to drugs, it will be a great help, a godsend. You have to be there to know what you're talking about, what is it. People talk, and people talk, and people talk. People don't even know what is it. To be out there and to fight for your life. So yes, maybe that program would not, maybe we don't know, but there are programs, there are institutions that work in behalf of drug addicts. I'm not going to tell church because you don't want to hear about church, about God. But that is the best way to go. Believe me, that is the best way to go. And I am a testimony of that. But I'm glad that this body is talking about drug addiction. I'm glad that this body is talking about trying to do something about it. And I ask all of you, stop putting any roadblock in what people want to do to help drug addicts. They need our help. It is a big problem out there. It is a big problem out there. Our youth have been lost. The killing, even rapes, and even the hold-ups that have been happening in our community, the majority of them are because of drug addicts, or because of drugs. So we need to help. We need to be sure that we support any program, any project, any bill that comes to this floor trying to provide any kind of help, because, yes, we need those help. So I'm voting yes, and I'm glad that you are trying to do something about it. And I'm not talking because people talk and talk. I live that life. I live that life. Now I'm a preacher. Now I'm a pastor of a church, because God took me out of that life. And I'm not ashamed to say it because there is power in Jesus. And I'm a testimony of that. So let's do it. And stop putting roadblocks on those things. I'm voting yes.
Thank you, Senator Diaz. Senator Breslin on the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. It's rare that I get up and applaud everyone who's spoken, both on the majority side and the minority side. But I think today we're talking about heroin addiction, something we didn't talk about even 2 years ago. And it's been less than 2 years that Patty Farrell lost her daughter. Marie, who we've heard talk about on both sides of the aisle. Just the fact that we are now talking about heroin addiction. We're talking about inpatient versus outpatient and the evidence we're receiving. We're talking about treatment, which is really brand new. You can't take a heroin addict and do the same kinds of things with a heroin addict that you do with an alcoholic. It's totally different. Mandated versus non-mandated. We're talking about it. Is it important to have a court direct that someone receive inpatient treatment? Will they react negatively? Or do you let the person volunteer? In some cases, we heard testimony that the heroin was so overpowering and so overwhelming that the person knew something bad was happening to them, and they wanted the treatment. But what kinds of treatment would be mandated, would be voluntary, who would pay for them? But we're here on the floor, and I applaud Senator Boyle for taking the road show of the majority to 18 different locations. And I know on our side, I applaud our side because back at the end of 2013, we held a hearing. And our results, both sides, they aren't different. They're not conclusive yet because we're still working on it. So I give this bill the benefit of the doubt. It's another attempt to locate the final answer, to locate the perfect answer, which I don't think we're going to find today. And Reverend Diaz, Senator Diaz, talks about faith. Obviously, faith is a critical component because whether it's mandated or non-mandated, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, that faith element, if you have it, is one more step in the right direction. So all of us, I don't think Democrat or Republican, conservative, liberal, incarceration, non-incarceration, should look at this as the final answer. Hopefully, it's a step in the right direction. And I don't think we can make a mistake by favoring this legislation. In fact, each step we take will have ramifications, will give us new experiences on whether this is the right answer or the wrong answer. It's to make sure that we as a body, the 63 of us, or now 61, we make it nonpartisan. We make it so we'll never have, again, a Patty Farrell sitting in the gallery. That her motivation got us to do what we're doing. And that we can now look for the answers. And we can be in the forefront in the state of New York and looking for the most valid treatments to make sure we eliminate this poison that's permeating the state of New York. And it's permeating the state of New York, not in urban areas, but in all areas. Suburban, rural, poor, rich, white, black, Latino, everyone. All of us are affected by it. And probably it's one of the positive parts of it, that all of us are being affected. We can't say that it's someone else's problem. It's all of ours. So I think all of us will look at these bills and take a chance. Some of them we won't agree with, but if we think that there's a possibility that they'll add or save one life or get one person through treatment to stay alive, to get well, it's worth it. And I will be voting in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Breslin. Are there any other members wishing to be heard on the bill? Seeing none, debate is closed. Secretary will ring the bells. I see people leaving. This coming in.
On the bill?
Senator Gianaris on the bill.
Not on the bill, Madam President. While we're waiting for the members to get back in the chamber, I just wanted to announce to everyone that we have a birthday of one of our colleagues today, Senator Breslin. He's enjoying his birthday today.
Senator Breslin, happy birthday. I would just remind you all that the Italians are having a party for Senator Breslin in Troy, so we can get through this tonight. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect on the 120th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Krueger to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote no. I have to say that we all intend good here with providing more treatment options for people. And so I am empathetic with my colleagues who spoke about the value of having as many options as possible. But I have to say, reading the analysis and listening to Senator Rivera, mandatory treatment for adults for outpatient have not proved to be successful in the research of drug treatment. And as we're reading memos from our healthcare providers, they point out, given the inadequate supply of drug treatment, our decision to mandate outpatient treatment for people who don't and aren't ready to accept it will actually take away treatment options for those who are in search of it. So I can't argue in favor of taking away treatment placement slots for those who are in search of treatment in order to attempt to force people into a model that the scientific research, at least on most or of all of the drugs that we currently see being abused, even though we all agree there are new issues with the new types of drugs, is that we would use resources on those who reject them and not have them available for those who need them. So the ultimate win is a diversity of treatment options, outpatient, inpatient, adequate services. But right now with this bill, we'd simply be replacing forced treatment for those who won't participate and losing it for those who need it. I'll vote no. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Krueger to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1140, those recorded in the negative are Senators Krueger and Rivera. Absent from voting, Senators Adabo, Espaillat, Golden, Sampson, and Sanders. Ayes 52, nays 2.
Bill is passed.
Can we go to calendar 1148, please?
Secretary will read calendar number 1148.
Calendar number 1148 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 7659, enact amend the penal law.
Senator Rivera has requested an explanation. Senator Boyle.
Yes, this bill creates a new crime, transport of an opiate, it would make it illegal to transport any opiate, including heroin, any distance greater than 5 miles within our state or from one county to another county within our state.
President, the sponsor would yield.
Yes, I yield.
Senator Boyle yields.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, Madam President, why only opioids?
Why only opiate?
Yes, Madam President, I'll repeat my question. Why only that particular class of drug?
Well, we can certainly discuss including other drugs, but today, as part of this heroin and opioid task force, and I know that the Democratic Conference also had a heroin and opioid task force, we're focusing on this area of drugs, which is creating a crisis in our state at this immediate time, ruining families and destroying lives from one end of the state to the next. That's why this bill focuses on opioids, but I'd be happy to discuss it, another bill regarding other drugs.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Boyle, do you continue to yield? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sorry.
What was the reasoning behind the 5 miles? Why not 10 miles? And what was the reasoning behind the distance?
Well, this, through you, Madam President, 5 miles gave district attorneys and other prosecutors the maximum jurisdiction. We see in a number of the forums that we hosted around the state, the 18 forums, prosecutors would say that individuals with the sole purpose of dealing drugs for profit, not personal use, not people that are addicted and trying to feed their habit, would travel great distances from downstate to upstate, upstate, downstate, from western New York to eastern part of the state, through counties, certainly more than 5 miles, to steal these drugs and destroy lives with the sole purpose of making money.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Senator Boyle, do you continue to yield?
I continue.
Senator Boyle yields.
Thank you, Madam President. What is the amount that is the threshold that is set in this particular legislation? Is there a threshold that is set?
Through you, Madam President, no, there's no threshold. There's any amount of opioids, heroin in the example, if you have 1 packet, 3 packets, or 500 packets, if you travel this distance. Now, there is a defense for personal use, which would lower the criminal penalty. If you can convince a prosecutor that you're just using it for your own drug and you travel between counties or those miles, then you have a defense and you won't be charged with the Class B felony.
Through you, Madam President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Senator Boyle yields.
So there's no set amount in the bill language itself, as far as what the threshold, what the cutoff would be for it to be considered private use or personal use as opposed to intent to distribute?
Madam President, that's correct. There is no weight limit or amount. As you know, there's different weights with different types of drug, and certainly heroin is lighter than those drugs that have been used in the past or have been highlighted in the past. So any amount that's traveled that brought this certain number of miles or through between counties is prosecutorial.
Thank you. Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Rivera on the bill.
I want to thank Senator Boyle for answering the questions and certainly for the overall efforts of the task force. But I did have to take a second to look at this particular bill and really point out the fact that it is precisely the type of bill that I was referring to earlier as far as going in the wrong direction. From the report itself, there's a section of it which deals with, which actually asks different experts, whether we're talking about law enforcement officials or medical professionals, et cetera, what their view is on what are some of the things that need to be done to make sure that we can deal with what currently, the crisis that we're currently undergoing. I'll just quote a couple. Ernie Cutting, who is the sheriff of Shenango County, states that what he believes is the most important is expansion of school and community-based prevention services. Richard Devlin, sheriff of Otsego County, says that if you train law enforcement professionals to deal with withdrawal symptoms and underlying addiction medical conditions. I think that might have been a typo there, but we get the point. Craig Dumond, who's the undersheriff from Delaware County, he believes that expansion of school and community-based prevention services are what is most necessary. And I could go on. I just picked a couple, particularly from law enforcement personnel, because I think it's important to underline that there is a recognition amongst these folks that that is the most important thing that we can do to make sure that we can deal with this crisis in the long term. And the one thing that we should not be doing is going back in the direction of expanding criminal penalties for drug crimes. It is the fear that I have with bills like this, and there's a couple of other ones on the agenda that fit in this category, is that we are again going towards the Rockefeller drug laws. And what I mean by that is that we are going again towards a model that says that individuals that are, I think that Senator Robach has a question.
Senator Robach?
I don't know if you want to finish, but I would like to ask you a question at the
I
appropriate
will
time.
yield, Madam President.
Senator Rivera yields.
Senator Rivera, I understand your passion, but I'm not sure, now you said this about 25 times, that you are against any penalties and are against going against the Rockefeller drug laws. We had a bill earlier that I think you voted no on that would make state law match federal statute on people who have a wide variety. And I don't know if you participated in any of the hearings or know any of the science of this, but earlier in my career, if the heroin that was sold in the 90s was more than 15%, it was high. This heroin is 50% cut with fentanyl. It is rocket fuel. It is killing people. These people are making money knowing, many of them, not using, knowing that they're going to put people to their grave. Are you suggesting that that somehow is okay, and trying to cut off that sales side has something to do with treatment?
First of all, no, I am not suggesting that. Second of all,
well, then why do you keep saying it?
Madam President, if I may finish my answer. First, through you, Madam President, no, I am not suggesting that. Number two, I would have gone to any of the hearings had we been invited. We're not members of the task force, as you know. But more importantly, what I'm saying here is that to be able to deal with the deaths that are occurring, to be able to deal, and many of these, do not forget, Senator Robach, through you, Madam President, they occur in my neighborhood as well. They occur in my backyard as well. What I'm saying is that, yes, we should be talking about treatment, but we should be talking about the effect that the impact of criminal penalties has on communities like the ones that I represent over a long period of time. What we're saying is that in this particular bill, to get back to it, it is not specific enough. And what we're talking about is that we're creating a category of crime which potentially could land people that have no intention of selling the amount that they have on them in this category of crime. And then what you're doing overall, Madam President, is that you are creating, you are again leading us to the point that we're talking about criminal penalties as the way to deal with what is ultimately a public health problem. Now, we can talk about the specifics of different bills, but as it refers to this one in particular, I am convinced, to finish my answer, Madam President, I am not suggesting that I want to ignore the deaths or the pain of families all across the state, but what I am saying is that when we're talking strictly about criminal penalties or creating new crimes that make people criminals for merely getting on a train, if a person has heroin in their pocket and they get on a train in Brooklyn and they get off the train in the Bronx, by the way, the possession of it is already a crime. Mm-hmm. So now we're saying that on top of possession, there also would be guilty of transporting an opioid-controlled substance, and then burden would be on them to prove that they weren't trying to sell it. This ultimately could lead to more incarcerations, and ultimately what we're talking about is that mass incarceration has not worked, does not work, and ultimately is a public health issue, and this is not the way to resolve those issues, Madam President.
Through you, Madam President, I have so many questions, but I'll try and focus on this. I think, you're a smart guy. You realize that if you cut down on the supply side, that it's going to help less people be addicted. We agree with that so far, correct?
Madam President, through you, I think that I would say that whether I agree with that or not, that is not what this bill would do.
All right, let me ask another question then, through you, Madam President. What amount of this deadly, toxic killing drug, what quantity would you vote against the bill earlier that, quite frankly, I was shocked that anybody could vote against it. Mm-hmm. What quantity would separate from you a user to a dealer before you'd ever be comfortable with a penalty? Because I think Senator Boyle, myself, we took this very seriously, others, trying to really quantify and make sure we're getting dealers, not users. But I was wondering, just out of curiosity, what threshold you would ever be happy with, if any.
Through you, Madam President, there's no number that I have right now in my head. We certainly could have a conversation about determining, with experts that know far more than either of us, through you, Madam President, as far as this particular substance. What I am talking about is how mass incarceration has been a product of drug laws that impact certainly communities like the ones I represent overwhelmingly. And the impact that that has ultimately on the communities as a whole is something that we have to address. And then when I see a bill like the one, Madam President, with all due respect to not only to Senator Robach, but certainly to Senator Boyle as the sponsor, that ultimately creates a new category of crime, where we're not specific enough as to what we're trying to stamp out. You could technically start to have entire cases built around somebody, again, getting on a train. I have a problem with that. So certainly, Madam President, if Senator Robach wants to continue, I certainly would yield. But ultimately, the issue that I have, and we can always have a conversation, certainly I would have loved to be included in the conversations, but not a member of the task force, so y'all didn't even ask me. Now, what I think we need to do is we need to talk about how, and I'm glad that a lot of the conversations that's happening on the floor is exactly that. We're talking about addiction as a public health issue and not as a criminal issue. This bill, again, deals with this drug crime as a criminal issue, not addiction as we're trying to deal with as a public health issue.
One last question through you, Madam President.
And of course,
Senator Rivera, you.
Senator Rivera, we had assembly people, we had all kinds of people participate and come to the forum, and if you felt that you didn't want to, believe me, you would have been more than welcome. But in response to all these parents, which is how we got this multi-approach to this, from insurance bills to enforcement bills to education bills to even how we prescribe certain opiates that seem to lead to this addiction, what would be your answer to all the parents, to all the family members, the spouses, the children that said, are these people really able to sell this strong killing heroin, and this is the maximum penalty they can get in New York? If you don't like our approach to it, what would you suggest would be a good way to go after the dealers, not the users?
Madam President, through you, I think that's an excellent question. And ultimately, the way that we deal with dealers, first of all, making the distinction between what has been legally determined to be a dealer and a user, sometimes the line is not that clear-cut. Sometimes somebody who has a certain amount on them is marked as a dealer because there's some intent to distribute, potentially because of the amount that's on them. So I don't think that necessarily that line is so clear-cut. We certainly, let me be clear, it's not that I am supportive of illegal usage of drugs, but I think what I am supportive of is an approach that is more comprehensive, and as we've talked about here, considers addiction not a criminal issue, but a public health one. So I certainly think that this is not, right now, we're not going to resolve this, obviously. Right. We have a very serious distinction about what this bill does, and I believe that as it relates to dealers, this bill does not deal with the type of folks that you're talking about. This is not a Pablo Escobar bill. What this does is it creates a whole new series of crimes, through you, Madam President, where there's transportation of opioids for simply having it in your pocket. And if we're talking about the fact that opioids have been carved out when there's no other drugs that are included, it just reminds me a little bit of the distinction that we have between powdered cocaine and crack cocaine. And we know overall the type of impact that that had on communities like the ones that I represent. So ultimately, the reason I'm opposed to this bill, through you, Madam President, is that I believe it goes in the opposite direction of where we need to go. It's not a criminal issue, it is a public health issue, and that is why I'm opposed to it.
I thank Senator Rivera for his answers and would just suggest this is a little different than a lot of the other drugs we deal with. This is clearly killing people quickly. One of our colleagues earlier had stated a 40% increase. In Rochester, the fatalities went up 300%. That's with 111 people being saved by the application of Narcan. So, you know, for these people that are selling this, I would just say, this isn't like some of the other drugs that may have a deleterious effect over a long-term time. This is, you grab the tail of this dragon, you're getting the whack pretty quick. And so I just think we should look at it a little bit differently, and I would humbly request, not a question, you contemplate that when you're doing this, because we need to go after the dealers on this, as well as the treatment side and the other part you think of as well. But thank you for indulging me in those questions.
Of course. Madam President, I'll finish on the bill.
Senator Rivera on the bill.
while I certainly thank Senator Robach for his passionate advocacy on this, I have to focus again, and I will do so quickly, on the bill. The reason why I'm opposed to this bill is not because I'm opposed to Senator Boyle's efforts. Certainly I'm not opposed to Senator Robach's efforts. I'm not opposed to any efforts to making sure that less people are addicted, that we have more people that are healthy, that we have just a healthier New York. The reason I'm opposed to this bill and to many others like it is that it creates, again, a type of crime. It criminalizes behavior, and it creates the category where behavior could be criminalized. That is not, if we're dealing with it as a public health issue, it is not a criminal issue. So we're saying that individuals that are using heroin and have it in their pocket, potentially from getting on a train, could be considered to be dealing it because or at least in this case, they would be considered they would be guilty potentially of the crime of transporting an opioid-controlled substance. I see us going down the road again, where we're creating a different category of crime that ultimately impacts drugs users. And unfortunately, when we've created these bills before, when we've created these laws before, they've had a disproportionate impact on communities like the ones that I represent. Mass incarceration does not work. It has not worked. It will not work. When we deal with addiction as a public health issue, then we'll see our communities be healthier. So in this instance, this bill, I believe, goes down that road, which I do not believe we should go back down, and I will be voting in the negative. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Krueger on the bill.
Would Senator Robach please yield to a question?
Senator Robach, do you yield?
I would enthusiastically yield for a question from you, Senator Krueger.
Thank you.
I have been waiting all day.
So I was listening to the debate. What kind of dealer purposely tries to kill their clients?
I believe in the case of this heroin that they're selling right now, every single one of them, exactly. I think that they are selling death knowingly, enthusiastically. It almost defies logic because you would think you'd want them to be on it long term. But if you know anything about it or the chemistry of it, so I just want you to, early days, and it was bad then, but people would do it for years and longer periods of time because it was so, not so weak, but it was not as pure. I have no idea why they're doing this, but this country, not just New York State, is flooded with 50% heroin cut with fentanyl, which is a synthetic, almost opioid like heroin that makes this like rocket fuel. So even those people have to know, while they're all trying to beat who has the strongest and the high, for anybody who's using this, or even somebody who comes out of short-term treatment, and let's say they were taking 3 Dex before, when they go out and use this stuff, it's gonna kill them. If it wasn't for Narcan, our deaths in Monroe County would have went from 14 to 176. That's a lot of dead people. That's a lot of families. Yes, they are losing a lot of customers. You'd have to ask them why they're doing it. But I could say this, not politically, but personally. I think those people deserve the strongest punishment because the game's changed. They're not using and selling to get high. They're using to make money at the misery and the death of all these people and these new users, some of them very young, some of them coming off of opioid usage, looking for something else, and they are giving them for free, $50 for 10 bags of this stuff. It's killing, it's crazy. And I think that the penalty should definitely fit the crime 100% wholeheartedly.
Thank you. On the bill, Madam President.
Senator Krueger on the bill.
You know, we've had a history in this country of different new kinds of drugs hitting the market, some of them more disastrous as far as the death toll than others. This is not our first round with heroin and the dangers of it. I agree with my colleagues that we are seeing a much stronger kind of heroin at a much cheaper price. But we know from 75 years of failed war on drugs that actually trying to decrease the supply and put people in jail doesn't solve the problem. We just keep coming up with new kinds of drugs or the next generation. What we need to do is much better public education, much broader treatment options, more education. And I have to say, the question of whether criminal penalties will address any of this, I find very doubtful. Because again, as my colleague explained, we're seeing people die quickly from too strong dosages or drugs that are mixed with non-pure poisonous types of products. Professional drug dealers don't go into this kind of business. Professional drug dealers want to get you hooked and keep your money coming, particularly on a drug that is unfortunately so inexpensive on the market. Professional drug dealers are really not interested in selling you a couple of days' worth and seeing you die. It's a very bad business model. Now, I don't want them to have a better business model, but I think we need to recognize cause, effect, what will work. And I would argue that this bill is not the solution to the problem. While I fully agree we have a serious problem, I do think it requires massive education about the dangers and the risks of taking these drugs. I do think it requires better and improved models for outreach to our schools, because it seems to be disproportionately young people who don't understand the enormous risks from taking these kinds of drugs. And I hope that in coordination with our criminal defense system and our police departments and our school systems, we can do a better job of making sure people don't start these drugs and get addicted to these drugs. But again, repeating what we know in this country has failed is not going to give us a solution. New York State had and may still have the highest incarceration rate for low-level nonviolent drug users and dealers. It didn't stop us from having this drug problem or the history of drug problems we have seen for the last 75 years. Expanding on failed models won't be the solution. Now, if there is a sub-universe who is intentionally selling heroin with the intent of murdering people, then I actually think we should go after them with a different kind of criminal charge, which is bringing them to court under a charge of murder. They intentionally wanted to kill people, and heroin was the drug they chose as their weapon. We have criminal laws like that, and I believe we should use them. But I think we will find that actual drug dealers really don't want to kill their clients. They want them to stay hooked and keep paying through the nose, literally. So we have a problem. This isn't the solution. I'll vote no, Madam President. Thank you.
Are there any other members wishing to be heard? Senator Montgomery on the bill.
Yes, Madam President, before I make my comments, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same bill. My assumption is this is Senator Boyle's bill, Senate Bill 7659.
Yes, Senator Montgomery.
I ask because I hear Senator Robach talking about, what's the difference in a drug dealer and a drug user, and he goes on and on and on. And I'm not sure we're talking about the same bill. I didn't know what bill he was talking about. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let me just, on the bill, my comments on this bill that we're debating, that's on the floor. I want to be clear that this particular bill speaks to, it's a very novel way of introducing a brand new criminal act, which is, according to this, it is a crime, it's a new crime of transport of an opiate-controlled substance in the second degree. It establishes a Class E felony for transporting whatever you're transporting 5 miles. So that means that if someone travels from my district in Bedford-Stuyvesant to your district in Coney Island, there, in addition to whatever else they may be charged with, there is an additional crime referred to as transport of a controlled substance. Now, the fact of the matter is, this is simply a sentencing bill. It has nothing to do with any of the other issues that we have discussed today in terms of education and treatment and trying to address the problem of heroin addiction, redefining it as a health issue. This is right back to, as some of my colleagues, Senator Rivera, Senator Krueger have said, this is simply an undercover sentencing bill which adds a new crime not related to anything that we are talking about today, but establishing a new way of incarcerating people. So I'm definitely opposed to this, as I have been opposed to all of the other attempts to just put on the floor sentencing laws in the name of addressing a criminal issue. So, Madam President, I'm voting no on this bill.
Thank you, Senator Montgomery. Are there any other members wishing to be heard on the bill? Seeing none, debate is closed. Secretary will ring the bells.
Ready to go.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 90th day.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Announce the results. Senator Squadron, to explain your vote.
This bill, for a simple possession with no weight threshold and no intent to sell, simple possession for a user, for an addict, creates a Class E felony. Some of the other components of this bill that I know were debated, I'm much more sympathetic to, but we're all agreeing that we shouldn't be creating felons out of addicts who have no intent to sell, who have a very small amount. That's what this bill would do. That's why I'm voting no, Madam President. Thank you.
Senator Squadron, to be recorded in the negative, announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1148, those recorded in the negative are Senators DeLon, Hoylman, Krueger, Montgomery, Perkins, and Rivera and Squadron. Absent from voting, Senators Adabo, Espaillat, Golden, Hannan, Sampson, and Sanders. Ayes 46, nays 7.
Bill is passed.
President, can we take up calendar number 355, please?
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 355 by Senator Skelos, Senate Print 1388, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skelos, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin.
Senator Boyle to explain his vote.
President, to briefly explain my vote, this is a good bill, and I commend the leader for bringing it in. I just want to thank...
Yes, we may.
Order
Could
in the
we
chamber would be
please
nice.
have some order in the chamber?
Thank
Senator
you.
Boyle, please explain your vote, and if those of you who would like to leave, please do so quietly and unobtrusively, if at all possible.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd briefly like to thank all my colleagues on the Joint Task Force and those on the Democratic side of the aisle for their great proposals to combat this heroin epidemic. I also like to thank my vice chairs, Senator Nozzolio and Carlucci, and thank the staff, most importantly. We traveled 8,000 miles, had 18 forums, 2,300 attendees, and 276 total witnesses at these task force. We had a package of 25 bills. In my years in government, the most comprehensive legislative proposals I've ever seen. And I know a lot was said about the criminal aspects, the law enforcement aspects. The fact is we had 25 bills, and 10 of them regarding law enforcement. 15, the vast majority, dealt with prevention and treatment. And every DA, as Senator Rivera said, wants to focus. They know that we cannot arrest our way out of this crisis. We need to help those that are truly addicted. That's what we intended to do. And I want to thank all my colleagues for the strong bipartisan support for this legislative proposal. I vote in the affirmative.
Thank you, Senator Boyle. To be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 355, those recorded in the negative are Senators Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, Perkins, Rivera, Serrano, and Squadron. Absent from voting, Senators Adabo, Espaillat, Golden, Hannan, Sampson, and Sanders. Ayes 46, nays 7.
Bill is passed. Senator Libous,
President,
that
if we could,
completes-
excuse me, if we could go back to motions. On behalf of, go back to motions?
Back to motions.
Thank you. On behalf of Senator Mazars, I'd like to call up his bill, Senate Print 5149, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 71 by Senator Maziar, Senate Print 5149, enact amended public service law.
Madam President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skell, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 59.
Madam President, I now offer up the following amendments on behalf of Senator.
Amendments are accepted.
Thank you. On behalf of Senator Ritchie, on page 39, I offer the following amendments. Calendar number 646, Senate Print 1946. As that said, bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. On behalf of Senator Larkin, on page 11, I offer the following amendments. Calendar 1091, Senate Print 7625A, and as that said, bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. On behalf of Senator Marcelino, on page 43, I offer the following amendments. Calendar number 689, Senate Print 6962. As I said, bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. On behalf of Senator Maziarz, on page 65, I offer amendments to calendar number 977, Senate Print 7312. As I said, bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. On behalf of Senator Bonasek, on page 70, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 1029, Senate Print 2015, and as I said, bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. And, Mr. President, on behalf of Senator Ritchie, I wish to call up her bill, Senate Print 6693B, recalled from the Assembly, but it's now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 252 by Senator Ritchie, Senate Print 6693B, enact amend the agriculture and markets law.
Madam President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill is passed.
Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, De Francisco, Klein, Libous, Skell, Stewart, Cousins, Zeldin. Ayes 59.
Thank you, Madam President. I offer up the following amendments. Madam President, is there any further business before the House?
There is no further business before the House.
There being no further business, I move that the Senate adjourn until tomorrow. What's the date?
November 10th, or June 10th.
June 10th. June 10th at 11 a.m.
There being no further business, the Senate stands adjourned until tomorrow, Tuesday, June 10th at 11 a.m. 11 a.m.